Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. Here, we bring you fun, thrilling, and immersive novels in audio form. With a growing library of audiobooks, there's something here for every listener. Do you like Naruto fan fiction? We have it all. From powerful ninja battles to amazing sage arts and wood-style moves, or even Tsunoda's boobs, you can enjoy epic adventures anytime. Love One Piece stories? Soar through the skies with Moonwalk, sense the world with observation hockey, clash with enemies using armament hockey, spending the night with Nami and Robin, and rise to fame by unleashing your conqueror's hockey. Become a true pirate of the seas. Your adventure starts here. Want even more? You can go full Bankai. Let's go. We offer a wide range of stories, including Fairy Tales, Hunter x Hunter, High School DxD, Marvel and DC, Harry Potter, and many more. So, what are you waiting for? Jump into endless adventures today. We're waiting for you at Novel Love Hearing. I understand, Yukino said. But Yu is a member of this club. As the president of the service club, it's my duty to look out for her. Her statement was clear. She was worried he had his sights on Yu too. Rao understood immediately and smirked. Don't worry. If that time ever comes, I'll be upfront with her as well. Yukino was taken aback. That wasn't the answer she had expected. But then Rao added. I understand what you're thinking, but let me tell you this. I'm not like the people you know. Don't try to apply your standards to me. It just doesn't fit. Ding. Just then, Rao's phone buzzed. He checked and saw a message from Shizuka. Shizuka Hiratsuka, hey, just a heads up. Garasu-sensei might ask for your help soon. Be prepared. Hey. Rao chuckled. Clearly, Shizuka was trying to avoid him. If she really wanted to talk, she could have called him to her office instead of sending a text. Well, if there's nothing else, Yukino Shita-san, I'll take my leave. Yukino stayed silent. There wasn't much else to say at this point. Seeing this, Rao opened the door to leave, only to find Yua leaning against it, clearly in a listening position. Yua froze for a moment, then pouted and mumbled. Rao-kun, I wasn't eavesdropping, I swear. I was just tired of standing, so I leaned against the door. It was a bit of a stretch, but she didn't seem to have actually heard anything. I believe you weren't eavesdropping. Yua, let's exchange contact information. That way, you can message me directly if you need anything next time. Sure. Excited, Yua quickly pulled out her phone, and they exchanged numbers. Her face beamed with happiness after getting his contact information. Afterward, Rao glanced back at Yukino and gave her a faint smile before leaving. Yukino, however, felt that smile was a smug, deliberate provocation from a playboy. Clenching her fists, she glanced at the naive Yu and made a firm decision. Yu, I'll protect you, as the president of the service club. Returning to his classroom, Rao didn't give much thought to Yukino's reaction. Instead, her personality actually intrigued him. Yukino, Haruno. I guess I'll need to add them to my list of sisters to woo. Sisters. Suddenly, Megumi Kato popped up beside him. Seeing her, Rao was reminded of something. Megumi, do you have a sister? Yeah, I have an older sister. How did you know, Rao-kun? Does your sister have a boyfriend? He asked, sounding serious. Megumi pouted slightly, looking adorably annoyed. Are you trying to go after my sister, Rao-kun? Even though she doesn't have a boyfriend, I should tell you that my sister and I look quite alike. Oh? Rao smirked. So, Megumi, are you suggesting I should pursue you instead? If Rao-kun wasn't such a playboy, I might have already said yes. Megumi's expression remained calm and serene. So, does that mean you like me, Megumi? His bluntness took her by surprise, but she quickly recovered. Her eyes twinkled as she replied. I can't tell you that just yet, Rao-kun. The bell's about to ring. Let's chat more next time. With that, she returned to her seat. Not yet, huh? Rao mused over her ambiguous answer with interest. Since she didn't outright deny it, he didn't feel the need to rush. He had a feeling that things with Megumi would progress naturally. Rao from Class 3. After some effort, Ariri finally found out Rao's name and class. During lunch break, Rao had planned to meet with Mai on the rooftop to eat lunch together. But as soon as he stepped out of the classroom, he saw Ariri running up to him, out of breath. Rao-kun, can you come with me for a minute? Chapter 76, Sickening Situation. Ariri had chosen a good spot. The rooftop. Standing beside her with arms crossed, Mai silently observed. However, Mai had used her cognitive disappearance ability, meaning Ariri couldn't detect Mai's presence. Mai's gaze clearly asked. Who is this girl? Ariri soon provided an answer with her actions. She bowed deeply to Rao. Sorry, Rao-kun. I was too sensitive last time and my attitude was rude. Please forgive me for being disrespectful. So, she was here to apologize. Mai was curious about what had happened to require such an apology and continued to quietly watch. Your apology is sincere, so I'll forgive you, Rao said. He wasn't petty enough to hold a grudge over something so trivial. Hearing his forgiveness, Yuri felt a weight lift off her chest. But another concern still weighed heavily on her mind. Standing back up, she quickly bowed again. And thank you for saving me earlier. Rao raised an eyebrow. It feels like you're here for more than just an apology and thanks. Is there something else? Yuri awkwardly scratched her head, her eyes darting around as she struggled with embarrassment. It's, about my Jin. Yuri mentally panicked. It was so embarrassing to talk about. If it's about your Jin, I already told you I'll keep it secret. Whether or not you believe me is up to you. Rao maintained his calm stance. I'm not the kind of person who'd expose someone's hobbies. He glanced at her. Since you've came to find me, I'm guessing you've already gathered some information about me at school? Why yes. Sorry, Yuri admitted, her head hung low. There's nothing to apologize for, Rao replied, sighing slightly. I think my reputation at school is decent. Maybe you should try trusting me. This. Yuri hesitated, thinking about what she'd heard from others. There were no negative rumors about Rao, and at this point, she had no other choice but to trust him. This is really important to me. Taking a deep breath, Yuri nodded firmly. Rao-kun, I'll trust you. Rao smiled and extended his pinky finger. Just to be safe, how about a pinky promise? PFF. Yuri couldn't help but giggle. Rao-kun, I didn't expect you to be this funny, but... She actually hooked her pinky with his, her face blushing. Liars have to swallow 1,000 needles. You're pretty childish yourself, Rao teased. Humphrey. Yuri pulled her hand back with a playful huff. Changing the subject, she said. Alright, that's settled. Let's go. I'm staying here. My friend is waiting for me. Friend? Oh, okay. See you, Rao-kun. With the weight of her worries lifted, Yuri left the rooftop feeling lighter. Before coming here, she had been really anxious, afraid that she wouldn't be forgiven. Rao-kun was surprisingly easy to talk to, and he didn't even ask about the Jin. As she descended the stairs, Yuri realized that Rao had never once looked at her with disgust. Her gaze fell on her pinky. Her blush deepened. I actually hooked pinkies with a guy. How embarrassing. Covering her face, she quickly hurried down the stairs. Humphrey, pinky promises with a twin-tailed blonde beauty, huh? Mai's playful voice sounded from behind Rao on the rooftop. Rao-kun, don't you think you owe me an explanation? This all happened right in front of her, and yet another girl had been pulled in. Rao smiled slyly as he slowly moved closer. What would you like to hear, Mai? Of course, I want to know how you two met. Wait, what are you doing? Before she could react, Rao had already wrapped his arms around her waist. What do you think? I'm going to tell you the story of what happened between me and Yuri. But you're... Now. There's no helping it. Just telling a story would be too boring. Is this really how you tell a story? Hey, this is what you call a vivid, immersive retelling. The Comprehensive Academy Student Council. This was the highest authority within the Comprehensive Academy, aside from the principal. Even the interior design reflected its elevated status, being extravagantly luxurious. Compared to the simplicity of the desks in Yukino's service club, the expensive-looking sofas, chairs, and tables here were strikingly different. At this moment, the student council room was very quiet. A girl with sleek black hair, a delicate face, and cold, wine-red eyes was reviewing the academic performance reports of her grade over the past 2 years since her enrollment. This girl was Kaguya Shinomiya, the student council president. Rao. No matter how she looked at it, the drastic change in his grades was too sudden. There was also another piece of information she had uncovered. Rao had recently broken all the school's physical fitness test records. Theoretical test scores could be cheated. However, Shizuka Hiratsuka and Mifagirasu, the teachers overseeing the tests, had both confirmed the legitimacy of his results. But as for the physical fitness tests, those were impossible to cheat, as they were conducted under public scrutiny. How did he manage this? Kaguya frowned as she pondered over it. This was the first time her academic standing had ever been surpassed by someone else. Just then. Knock, knock. Without warning, the door swung open. A pink-haired girl with a bow on her head burst in. Oh my, I'm so tired. The pink-haired girl dramatically collapsed onto the sofa in front of Kaguya. In that brief moment, Kaguya's gaze couldn't help but be drawn to the way the girl's chest bounced and then pressed down onto the couch, making Kaguya's forehead twitch. This girl was Chika Fujiwara, the secretary of the student council. someone Kaguya always found difficult to handle. Especially the way her chest seemed to stand out. Kaguya found it particularly bothersome because she didn't have any. She had already perfected everything else, but when it came to her body, particularly her chest, she was quite average, if not underwhelming. Sigh, I'm so jealous of you, Kaguya-chan. You don't have to worry about your grades at all. Unlike me, I did poorly this time and now I have to take extra lessons. Chika pouted, almost on the verge of tears. The extra lessons would cut into her time for playing board games. The beloved activity of the president of the board game club. It was just too tragic and unfair. Kaguya-chan, please teach me how to quickly improve my grades. I'll do anything. She looked up at Kaguya with a pitiful expression. Hey. Kaguya stared at her indifferently. Chika always made these kinds of requests, only to back out every time. Kaguya was used to it by now. But this time, Kaguya spoke up in her usual calm tone. Perhaps you could ask that Rayao fellow. Rayao? Chika tilted her head, confused. Then she remembered. You mean that guy who skyrocketed to the top spot in the rankings? Of course, Chika, who loved gossip, had heard about him. Besides her favorite topic, romance. She knew a little about all the latest rumors. Rayao's name had been circulating among the students, especially after his miraculous rise in the midterms. Some of the rumors included things like, the most handsome guy at Comprehensive Academy with the best physique. The mysterious connection between two transfer girls in second and third year and Rayao. All kinds of talk were centered around this boy named Rayao. Especially after the midterms, discussions about him had only intensified. Thinking of the miracle of Rayao's grades, Chika's eyes sparkled with excitement. If it's him, maybe it really could work. Kaguya hadn't expected her casual, offhand remark to be taken seriously, but it seemed Chika was absolutely earnest about it. Quiet underground parking garage. Huff, great, this off-road vehicle should be enough for us, Saya Takagi said as she closed the car's hood, wiping the sweat off her forehead with a sense of satisfaction. They were planning to head to the house of Shizuka Marikawa's friend to retrieve firearms and weapons. However, the distance was significant, and walking would not only be dangerous but time-consuming. Having a vehicle was essential. In the meantime, Sako had been completely engrossed in hunting zombies. Once she started, it was like she became a different person. Slashing her way through every corner and sometimes disappearing for half the day. They couldn't just sit around and wait for her to return, not knowing when that would be. So, the other three decided to be productive by finding water, food, and a vehicle. Can it start? Shizuka asked. Relax, I've already got it covered. Get in, Saya said confidently, thumping her chest. Starting the car was an easy task for her. Where to? Rei Miyamoto asked. First, we'll go to the gas station. We need fuel, Saya replied. Saya drove the off-road vehicle, taking Rei and Shizuka to a nearby gas station to refuel. Afterward, they headed toward the largest shopping mall in the area. Along the way, they ran over a few scattered zombies without much trouble. Let's grab some water and food, then get out of here, Saya instructed. All three wrapped their arms and legs with duct tape, checked their makeshift weapons, and cautiously entered the mall. They quietly avoided the wandering zombies and made their way to the food section. Taking out the bags they had brought, they started filling them with supplies. What do you think you're doing? A sudden voice interrupted their actions. The three of them turned cautiously, their guard up. They saw a young man wearing the uniform of Fujimi Academy. Saya raised an eyebrow. You're from Fujimi Academy? So, there were other students who had also escaped like them. You are too. The young man's eyes scanned them, lingering especially long on their chests, before he quickly averted his gaze and tried to appear serious. This mall has already been taken over by our teacher and group. If you want to take anything, you'll have to ask permission from our teacher. Huh? Ray frowned. Why? This mall doesn't belong to you. The young man shrugged in mock helplessness. This is the apocalypse now. All resources for survival need to be handled carefully. He was trying to sound sincere, but the way he looked at them, like prey, betrayed his true intentions. Don't worry, the teacher is very reasonable. Come with me. Ray, Saya, and Shizuka exchanged wary glances, but eventually decided to follow him. As they followed, the young man licked his lips, muttering under his breath. 3 perfect catches. I hope Shido-sensei rewards me after he's done. They were led to a room that appeared to be sealed off from the outside. Knock, knock. The young man knocked rhythmically, almost like a code. Click. The door opened. Please, go in. The teacher is inside, the young man said, grinning maliciously. What's this teacher's name? Saya asked, leading the way inside. The moment all 3 women stepped through the door, it slammed shut behind them. What are you doing? Ray demanded, turning to face the young man. Hey hey hey. He stopped pretending, his sinister grin widening. Shido-sensei, I brought some thieves who were trying to steal our food. Rei's face twisted in anger. We weren't stealing anything. Not stealing? Then what's that in your bags? A voice, confident and familiar, rang out. Rei froze. She recognized that voice all too well. Turning around, she saw a man with glasses, smiling as his eyes glinted behind them. It's you. Long time no see, Miyamoto-san, the man said, pushing his glasses up slightly, a smirk on his lips. Rei clenched her fists in rage. This wasn't some helpful teacher. It was Koichi Shido, the man who had deliberately held her back a grade. Shido's gaze slid past Rei and landed on Shizuka, his throat bobbing as he swallowed hard. Ah! His eyes gleamed with lust. He had long desired this woman, and now she had walked right into his hands. This must be fate, he thought. His lecherous stare made Shizuka visibly uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Saya quickly realized something was wrong. There were about a dozen students around them, all male. Rei, Shizuka-sensei, we need to get out of here. Now. Saya urged. Run? Where do you think you're going? Several male students blocked the door, their eyes predatory as they leered at the three women. The three women stood back to back, readying themselves. What are you planning? Saya demanded. Shido chuckled darkly. What do you think? He gestured with his eyes, and one of the students opened a nearby door. Inside, the three women saw something horrific. 7 or 8 young girls, completely naked and locked up. Their eyes were vacant, their bodies covered in bruises and wounds. In that moment, Saya, Rei, and Shizuka realized the sickening truth of what had been happening here. Chapter 77, No Live Stream. Too bad. You stole our food, so now you'll be punished by us, said Koichi Shido, staring at Shizuka Marikawa with a predatory gaze, his desire and depravity written all over his face. You're all scum. Rei Miyamoto's whole body trembled with rage. Insulting me in this situation? Shido's expression turned dark. Rei hated him, and the feeling was mutual. With a wave of his hand, he ordered. Take her down, make her pay. Yes, sensei. His followers, eyes gleaming like wolves, drooled and rushed forward. No. Shizuka and Saya Takagi screamed in terror, hoping that someone would come to their rescue. But Rei Miyamoto's expression remained cold, her sharp eyes fixed on Shido, and a chilling smile appeared on her face. You scum are all doomed, she said. Suddenly, the room's warmth vanished, replaced by an intense cold, as if they had been transported to the Arctic. A frosty mist filled the air. Ugh! Those rushing towards them let out gasps. Sensei! Save me! A student reached out toward Shido, but before he could grab him, he collapsed with a loud thud, stone-cold dead. The others followed suit, convulsing briefly before their lives ended, each with their chest impaled by a large blood-stained ice crystal. One more target to complete the trade, came a chilling voice, awakening the few survivors from their shock. Rei-san. Shizuka recognized the man before her. He smiled calmly at Rei. Should I kill this one too? He asked, gesturing at Shido, who was now drenched in sweat and trembling with fear. Rei Miyamoto had just initiated a deal. Ding. Trade initiated, trade request, Rei Miyamoto, objective, kill those who have malicious intent towards her. Condition, usage of my body for 3 hours. It was this deal that had summoned Rei, who swiftly dispatched the group of degenerates. No, leave him to me. Rei was the first to regain her composure amidst the bloodshed. She gripped her makeshift spear tightly. I'll kill him myself. It wasn't just for her own sake, or for Shizuka and Saya, but also for the girls in the room, their eyes hollowed from torment. Even in death, they showed no reaction. Their nerves had long since been shattered by Shido and his gang. If not for Rei's intervention, Rei and the others would have faced the same fate. People like Shido didn't deserve to live. All right, he's all yours, Rei said, crossing his arms as he stood back to watch. Seeing Rei approach with a weapon, Shido fell to his knees in terror, begging for his life. Please, don't kill me. I was forced into this. Tears streamed down his face as he bowed, smacking his forehead into the ground until it bled. But his pathetic pleas only fueled Rei's rage. The evidence of his crimes was undeniable. Right there in the next room. You piece of trash, die. With a furious yell, Rei plunged the spear into his heart. Ah! Shido's agonizing scream filled the room, but Rei didn't stop. She kept stabbing, over and over, until blood pooled at her feet and Shido lay dead, his body riddled with wounds. Rei stood there, staring at the lifeless, mutilated corpse. She had just killed a man. After the rage subsided, she was filled with a mix of fear and satisfaction. It was her first kill, and under such circumstances, it was understandable. Saya and Shizuka were equally shocked but showed no fear towards Ray. Instead, they felt a sense of relief. "Good job, Ray," Saya shouted, her voice filled with approval. "That bastard deserved it." "Agreed," Shizuka added. She walked toward the room where the other girls were huddled, traumatized. But as she approached, the girls either knelt or laid down as if awaiting their next command like obedient pets. Shizuka gasped in horror. "They've been broken," Rei-ao said softly. "There's nothing left. How could it come to this?" Shizuka's face contorted in pain and sorrow. Rei-ao placed a hand on Rei's shoulder. "You all should leave now." "Yes," they replied in unison, stepping outside. Rei-ao glanced back at the room, then exhaled gently. Crack, crack, crack. The entire building was encased in thick, cold ice within seconds. Ray hesitated, looking to Rei-ao for an explanation. "They've already lost everything. This is the kindest end. Leaving them would mean certain death. If found by others, their fate would be even worse. And asking Ray and the others to care for them would be an impossible burden. Rei-ao had simply ended their suffering." Saya pressed her lips together, then sighed. "Maybe you're right. Let's head back and regroup with the others." Upon returning to their temporary residence, Siko was already waiting for them, and she hurried over as soon as she saw them. "Ray, are you all okay?" There were no visible injuries, but the group's spirits seemed low. Rei-ao quickly explained the situation, and assertive killing intent radiated from Siko. "A bunch of scum," she muttered angrily. Even she was enraged by the vile acts of those people, and her murderous aura filled the air. In recent days, with the increasing number of zombies she had killed, her violent tendencies were becoming harder to control. Wherever she went, the bodies of zombies were left behind in pieces. Even Ray and the others had a hard time finding her when she entered her killing frenzy, so she had chosen to act alone to gather food and supplies for the group. Now, she regretted not staying calm and staying with them. She realized she needed to further control her violent impulses. "It's not your fault. Let them rest for now," Rei-ao said, showing a rare moment of understanding. He could see that Ray was emotionally drained and had no intention of demanding his payment right away. Siko nodded, and Rei-ao glanced at her status. Name, Siko Bujujima, Level, 18, Abilities, Dragon Blade, Swordsmanship Mastery, Rei-ao's Blessing, Inherent Device, Annihilation Spirit Blade, Weapon, One Cut Killer, Moras aim surprised, Rei-ao commented. "You've gone up 2 levels. You've been working hard, I see. Only by becoming stronger can I be the sharpest blade in your hands," Siko said with a gentle smile, clearly pleased with his praise. Hunting zombies non-stop had indeed paid off. "I'm glad to see you're so determined," Rei-ao said with a smile. "Come with me, it's time to train your combat skills against a real opponent." "You mean?" Siko's eyes lit up with excitement. "I'll spar with you and we'll kill some zombies along the way." Siko's eyes gleamed with enthusiasm. Fighting Rei-ao was something she had long looked forward to. "Let's go." Unfortunately for her, despite using all her strength, she couldn't land a single hit on Rei-ao. But she wasn't discouraged, nor was she surprised. Rei-ao's strength was unquestionable, and she took pride in the fact that this powerful man had conquered her. After sparring and honing Siko's skills, they cleared out some nearby zombies. The experience points were minimal and not enough to level Rei-ao up, though Siko did gain another level. "Sigh, I miss Sui's world," Rei-ao muttered, wishing for a world with stronger monsters. Noticing that they still had an hour left, he said. "Let's head back. They should be feeling better now, and it's time for me to collect my payment." "Ray," Siko hesitated, knowing what kind of payment Rei-ao was referring to. She was worried about Ray's emotional state. "Go with her. If she hesitates, give her a little push," Rei-ao suggested casually, clearly meaning for them to go together. "All right," Siko agreed without hesitation. That's what I love about you, Siko. So straightforward. Let's go." She really was his blade, obedient to his every command. To his surprise, when they returned, Ray was already washed and dressed in her underwear, waiting. Her expression was calm, and she looked perfectly normal. "I guess I underestimated your resilience," Rei-ao remarked, impressed. Nearby, Saya Takagi pouted. "Hey, I'm perfectly fine too." Shizuka Marikawa teased. "Oh my, Saya, are you jealous?" Saya's face flushed red. "I'm not jealous," she snapped. "I just don't like being underestimated." Like she would ever be jealous of this shameless pervert. Sure, he was handsome, powerful, had a great body, and had saved them from hell recently. But still. She bit her lip, trying to suppress her conflicting feelings. Despite his lechery, was he really that perfect? Ray, on the other hand, stared intensely at Rei-ao. "I've made up my mind." "Oh?" Rei-ao said, intrigued by what she had to say. Ray looked at him with determination. In this apocalyptic world, only by becoming stronger can I avoid being someone's plaything. I, Rei Miyamoto, am willing to give you everything I have. Please, teach me how to be strong like Suko. The events of the day had transformed Rei mentally. She refused to end up like the broken girls they had seen. She wanted to be strong enough to control her own fate. And if that meant giving herself to Rei-ao, then she was ready. Ding. Rei Miyamoto has initiated a trade. Trade details. She will give everything to become stronger. Rei-ao smiled, feeling her resolve. He then glanced at Sai and Shizuka. Would you two mind waiting in the other room? He pointed to a small bedroom he had prepared. Huh? Saya was confused. You're not using the bedroom? No. I'd rather do this in the living room. Ding. Trade initiated. Trade details. Rei Miyamoto will give everything to become stronger. Condition: unlimited use of her body. Time remaining: 3 hours. Group chat. Stella, this is strange. The trade ended 4 hours ago, and there hasn't been any news from Rei-ao. Acom, yeah, no live broadcast. Stella? Stella, what live broadcast are you talking about? Stella, damn it, I wasn't referring to that filthy, indecent live stream. I'm asking about what's really going on. She turned to Shizuku Kurogen for help, taking a deep breath. Shizuku, don't you think this group chat is beyond saving? However, Shizuku Kurogen just tilted her head in confusion and asked. What's wrong? Actually, I wouldn't mind seeing Rei-ao's body, she replied casually. Stella felt a sharp pain in her teeth. She regretted asking this person. The white-haired girl in front of her was completely love-struck. Ever since falling in love at first sight with Rei-ao, she had been obsessed. Late at night, she would hold her pillow and squirm while whispering his name. Especially during the live broadcasts, she was utterly shameless, not even caring that Stella was sitting right next to her. Ugh. Though. Maybe I want to see it too. Damn it. Thinking this, Stella guiltily shifted her gaze away. Chapter 78, Had Fun. Next. Megumi Kato. Megumi Kato, it seems like everyone in the chat group has gotten used to Rei-ao's live broadcasts. My Sakurajima, TCH. Isn't that just because some of them don't mind? Especially Ayam, who started it all. Ayam Yamagawa, Humphrey, I really didn't know anything about it back then. Frieren, I feel like Rei-ao deliberately didn't say anything. It's like conducting an experiment to adjust compatibility. Stella, are you saying Rei-ao did it on purpose? Frieren, that's just my guess. Stella, I knew he was up to no good. Suai, I still haven't gotten used to it yet, it's so embarrassing. Shizu, it feels strange watching, but when there's no broadcast, it feels kind of empty. Shizu had accepted that she didn't have long to live, so shame didn't affect her much anymore. She even felt that this gave her a reason to keep living. If possible, I'd really like to experience true love, Shizu thought to herself, a bitter smile hidden beneath her mask. Sakobujujima, everyone, don't worry. The situation has been dealt with. Here's what happened. Rei-ao had already left her, seamlessly moving on to Rei Miyamoto. Seeing Rei's condition, Sako knew she wasn't needed right now, so she took the time to explain the situation in the chat group. After Sako's explanation, nearly everyone in the chat group was filled with righteous indignation. Frieren, human diversity is indeed hard to understand. Megumi Kato, I don't think people like that can even be called human anymore. My Sakurajima, all I can say is that Rei-ao did a good job. Stella, it's hard not to agree. Those scumbags deserved it. If it were me, I'd have burned them into ashes. Suai, so even in other worlds, there are evil people. Shizu, wherever there are people, there will always be good and bad ones. It's just that some people are harder to distinguish than others. Ayam Yamagawa, even on the Iron Fortress, there are people who try to disrupt the order. I've had to expel or execute them according to Rei-ao's instructions. Sakobujujima, maybe that's just the nature of a world in crisis. Acom, the Empire isn't a world in crisis, but it's still full of scum. Acom, those people are like the filth of the Empire. They deserve to die. Kurum, standing beside Acom, was stunned as she listened to her sister. Sister, are there really that many bad people in the Empire? The longer Kurum stayed with the members of Night Raid, the more she realized how different they were from what she had been taught. She was also starting to understand how corrupt the Empire really was. With her mind clearing after stopping her medication, she wasn't as stubborn as before. Acom nodded firmly. The Empire is rotten to the core. Kurum, you shouldn't serve the Empire anymore. She tried to convince her sister. However, Kurum remained indifferent. Is that the reason for your betrayal? As children, both had been sold by the Empire and raised as tools, trained to eliminate rebels. While Acom had eventually turned her back on them, Kurum remained loyal. Both loved their sister deeply but had grown to view each other as enemies. Akam fell silent. Kurom had been brainwashed too deeply, and changing her mind would be no easy task. If she couldn't save her, Akam would kill her herself. She couldn't bear the thought of her sister dying by someone else's hand. Stella, so why hasn't Rayao said a word this whole time? Sakobujujima, he's busy. Ding. Sakobujujima has started a live broadcast. Everyone entered the broadcast and immediately understood. Stella, TCH. I knew this scumbag was up to something. Megumi Kato, another one. Huh. Suai, that person looks scary, with her eyes rolling back. She's not dead, right? Shizu? I'm not sure. Sakobujujima, why would she be dead? It looks like she's feeling quite good. Mai Sakurajima. Sometimes it's better not to comment. Even Mai knew it felt good, but facing Rayao in these situations, she couldn't speak as casually as Sako did. Megumi Kato, the real question is, why did Sako start a broadcast in the first place? Stella, exactly. Why would you stream something like this? It's shameless. No wonder Rayao's a perverted jerk. Rayao, hee, how's that my fault? I didn't start the stream. Stella, you're just peeping. Rayao? Rayao, Stella, this is my chat group. As the group leader, I can't even look? Are you trying to take over or something? Stella? Fryron, oh, you can still pay attention to the chat at a time like this? Rayao. Can we stop talking about this like it's something primitive? Fryron, then how should we talk about it? Rayao, I'm just enjoying the moment. Megumi Kato. Mai Sakurajima. Shizu. Why does that sound even more primitive? Stella, stop talking about this already. Sakobujujima, hee, sorry, everyone. Sakobujujima, I just thought it'd be more straightforward to broadcast. I didn't want to explain everything verbally. That's on me. Sako's comment earned her a playful pat on the back from Rayao. She truly was his helpful companion, even aiding him in subtly spreading his influence through the chat. Sako, come here, Rayao called, sensing that Ray might have reached her limit. Rayao-kun, look, Sako said. Rayao glanced over and was taken aback. Whoa. She was doing a perfect splits yoga pose. At the Mira household. Yumiko stared with a hint of resentment. Another one. She had lost count of how many people Rayao had been involved with. It annoyed her to think about how he said he'd make her unable to leave him. Was this his idea of pursuing someone? No dates, no proper conversations, and yet he blatantly live-streamed. That. Ugh. Frustrated, Yumiko fell into deep thought. She suddenly realized that compared to the other girls in the chat group, she didn't seem to have much competitive edge. Whether it was in looks or figure, she felt lacking. And there were even legendary beauties like elves in the group. But she wasn't just comparing herself to the elves. Even Sakobujujima and Rei Miyamoto, whom she saw in the live streams. What on earth are those two eating to grow that big? Their ample figures, with their swaying movements, made even Yumiko feel envious. It was just too exaggerated. She bit down on her thumbnail, deep in thought. After a while, she concluded, maybe I should learn some powerful techniques? Unknowingly, her thoughts had already gone astray. Rayao wasn't the kind of man to be heartless. Since Rei Miyamoto had chosen to fully commit to being his woman, he wouldn't let her down. He granted her his protection and power. Name, Rei Miyamoto, Level 1, Abilities, Dragon Power, Wind Spirit, Rayao's Blessing, Inherent Device, Judgment of Sin. Wind Spirit, grants her the ability to use wind elemental powers, enabling her to transform into a wind spirit. Judgment of Sin, a unique weapon, a dual-headed spear that can sense the guilt in a person and curse those who are sinful. This unique gear, Judgment of Sin, was quite interesting. It was a long dual-headed spear that could judge someone's guilt. Quite useful in a post-apocalyptic world. Unfortunately, Ray had already fallen asleep, so he couldn't see its effects just yet. It wasn't that he lacked sympathy, it was just that Ray, fully immersed in her own pleasure, had pushed herself to this point. He didn't have the chance to see her transform into a wind spirit. Sako, take care of Ray, Rayao instructed. Sako nodded, exhausted. I'll help her level up. At the moment, Rayao didn't have the time, so he handed the task of leveling up Ray to Sako. Suddenly, Sako thought of something and glanced toward the door. Rayao, what about those two? Rayao smiled, not hiding anything. I'm waiting for them to willingly offer their own trades. Seeing this, Sako didn't say anything more. Outside the door, Saya Takagi and Shizuka Marikawa exchanged glances. Rayao hadn't bothered to lower his voice, so they heard everything clearly. Saya's face turned red, and she stubbornly said, "Who would make a deal with him? What a perverted narcissist." Shizuka, however, didn't think Rayao was narcissistic. As for being perverted, well, being able to keep going for 4 hours straight was certainly unusual. Honestly, after being saved by him and witnessing his strength, she couldn't help but feel drawn to him. But looking at Saya's angry face, she didn't dare say anything, worried it might provoke her further. Had your fun? Mai Sakurajima stood with her arms crossed, glaring at Rao as he returned. She had intended to lecture him about always live-streaming things like that in the group. It made her feel like her boyfriend wasn't just showing off to her, but to everyone else as well. To her shock, though, Rao shamelessly nodded. Not bad. You know, if you were willing to try the splits, Mai, it might be perfect. Mai's face turned black with anger. She stomped off to the spare room she had been using. Before shutting the door forcefully, she snapped. You're not touching me tonight. Bang. The door slammed with such force that the walls shook. Rao, however, didn't mind. He had only been joking, and Mai was just jealous. Of course, who knew? Maybe someday the joke would become reality. For now, though, he needed a shower. Washing away everything clinging to him sounded like the best way to relax. Meanwhile, next door to Rao. Bang. The loud sound of a door slamming startled both Yukino and her sister, Haruno, who had arrived unexpectedly. Haruno frowned. Yukino-chan, is your neighbor not very friendly? If the person next door really had a temper, Haruno thought Yukino should consider moving. Yukino had no idea what Rao and Mai were up to, but she shook her head. No, they're not unfriendly. Then, why did you come over without telling me, sister? She asked, annoyed, and even more so at the fact that Haruno had a key to her apartment. But Yukino didn't realize that Haruno was a super overprotective sister. She assumed her sister was just trying to control her life. Oh, come on. I'm your sister, after all. It's only natural for me to take care of you, Haruno said, smiling as she picked up a giant panda plushie. Yukino had been doing her best to avoid looking at it, but now she couldn't tear her eyes away. It was Mr. Panda. Note, Mr. Panda refers to the panda plushie. Yukino had two major interests, cats and Mr. Panda plushies. And pandas were technically still cats, right? Haruno knew her sister all too well, easily hitting her soft spot. Yukino-chan, I got this Mr. Panda for you. You can keep it on the sofa, and even if I'm not here, it'll feel like I'm keeping you company. Yukino was internally repelled by the idea of a panda plushie representing her sister, but she couldn't resist the giant, fluffy Mr. Panda. With a cold tone, she said. If you don't have anything else to do here, then please leave. Sigh, how heartbreaking to be sent away by my beloved little sister, Haruno lamented, faking tears. Unfortunately for her, Yukino wasn't moved. She had seen through Haruno's tricks far too many times. Seeing that Yukino wasn't budging, Haruno dropped the act and stood up lazily. Alright. Since you're kicking me out, I'll go. But don't miss me too much. Yukino certainly wouldn't. Watching Haruno leave, she waited until she heard the door close. Only then did she leap onto the giant panda plushie, burying her face in its soft, fluffy belly. That was the magic of Mr. Panda. However, Yukino didn't notice that the panda plushie's eyes were faintly glowing red. Chapter 79, Sayuri Sawamura inside villa. After finishing her bath, Ariri walked out of the bathroom humming a cheerful tune. In the living room, a gentle-looking woman, who appeared quite young, glanced at her curiously. Ariri, you seem to be in a really good mood. Hee, not really, Ariri responded, but the smile on her face was unmistakable. She was happy about something related to Rao. He had kept his promise and hadn't revealed her secret to anyone. Over the past couple of days, no one had gossiped about her, and everything had been quiet. Rao hadn't judged her interests either, which had lifted her spirits. Skipping happily, Ariri returned to her room. Sigh. Watching her daughter close the door, Ariri's mother, Sayuri, sighed deeply. She knew Ariri had been working on her drawings non-stop recently, barely taking care of herself. Sayuri hadn't had the heart to tell her about Tomoyaki's situation yet. After all, even Sayuri had been shocked when she heard about what had happened to Tomoyaki. Maybe they were just never meant to be, Sayuri mused. Ever since they were young, Ariri and Aki had always had differing views, especially about their shared love for otaku culture. Ariri preferred to hide her interests, while Aki proudly embraced them, not caring what others thought. Their differing approaches had led to a falling out, which had lasted for 7 years. Sayuri didn't want to interfere too much, after all, it was just a disagreement between kids. Even if things got heated, it would likely end in a broken friendship, not something life-altering. Meanwhile, in her room, Ariri took out her phone, which she hadn't touched in days. As soon as she unlocked it, she saw a message from Tomoyaki, sent a few days earlier, inviting her to join his game development club. Sigh. She sighed deeply. She had already turned him down in person, so why was he still asking? If only Aki could be as understanding as Rayao, things might have been different. She recalled hearing about a conflict between Aki and Rayao. After a moment's thought, she decided to reply. Sorry, I'm not interested in game development, and I'm busy with my own projects. Aki. In the hospital, Tomoyaki tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Desperately, he searched for ways to recover, but most of the results were obviously fake ads. His frustration grew as he realized how hopeless his situation was. He liked fictional girls from anime, but that didn't mean he wanted to lose his manhood. Suddenly, Ariri's message popped up. After reading it, Aki clenched his teeth. Why had she waited so long to respond? Why did she have to message him now, of all times? But that wasn't the worst of it. It was her next message that pushed him over the edge. Ariri, by the way, I heard you had a conflict with Rayao. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding. Why don't you two talk it out? Aki, Rayao. Seeing the name of the person he had cursed countless times, Aki's mental state completely collapsed. All the frustration and bitterness of the past few days exploded in that moment. Aki, Rayao. Ariri, I bet you like him, don't you? That's why you're defending him. Ariri was taken aback. Ariri, what are you talking about? I would never. Aki, oh, really? Do you even know what happened? Aki, do you know what he did to me? Do you know how he ruined me? Aki, if you like him so much, why don't you go hole up in your room and draw your disgusting genshai with him? Ariri, Tomoyaki. Take that back. Aki, oh, did I hit a nerve? Are you afraid he'll find out that you're a disgusting hentai artist? Having lost the very thing that symbolized his manhood, Aki's mental state had shattered. Now, he had found a target to vent his anger on. It didn't matter who it was. He just needed to lash out. Aki, do you think he'll still like you after finding out you're an otaku who draws hentai? Aki, you. Ding. Ding. Message after message flooded in, each one more vile and venomous than the last. Ariri felt like she was staring at a demon in the form of Tomoyaki. Crash. In terror, Ariri threw her phone across the room. Ariri, are you okay? Hearing the commotion, Sayuri rushed into the room, only to find Ariri lying on her bed, sobbing. Glancing down, she noticed the shattered phone on the floor, still vibrating with incoming messages. Picking it up, Sayuri scanned the screen and quickly understood the situation. Tomoyaki. Sayuri frowned deeply, feeling a surge of anger toward the boy who was now spewing such vile words. She had once felt sorry for him, knowing he had been dealt a cruel hand, but now it was clear he was directing his hatred toward Ariri. Tomoyaki had grown up loving otaku culture, possibly influenced by Ariri and their family. However, the way he expressed his passion had always made Sayuri uncomfortable. Back when they were younger, the word otaku wasn't something positive, and both Ariri and Aki had been bullied for it. While Ariri chose to hide her interests, Aki continued to flaunt them openly. Things had changed in high school, but it was clear that their ways of living remained incompatible. Though Sayuri wasn't one to judge someone else's child, she couldn't ignore how deeply this affected her daughter. She felt the need to protect Ariri, especially after reading Aki's most recent messages. One message, in particular, caught her eye. Aki, and your mother, Sayuri, isn't she a disgusting otaku just like you? Aki, I bet your dad jumped to his death because of you too. Everyone says it was an accident, but I doubt it. Sayuri's grip on the phone tightened, her expression darkening. She had no interest in mediating a simple dispute between kids anymore. This situation had escalated far beyond a mere childhood disagreement. Aki was now targeting Ariri with cruel, unwarranted accusations. If he believed Ariri had wronged him, fine. Sayuri would make sure he received some form of compensation for his emotional distress. But from this point on, Ariri, you need to stay away from him, Sayuri said firmly. There was no longer any reason for the two of them to remain friends. Sayuri made up her mind. She took Ariri's phone and quietly left the room, carefully saving screenshots of the chat logs. She didn't bother replying to Aki's messages and let him continue spewing his venom. Those messages would serve as evidence. Rayao. Sayuri made a mental note of the name that seemed to have triggered Aki's breakdown. She needed to find out more about what had happened. Taking out her own phone, Sayuri dialed the number for one of the teachers at the school. The next morning, Rayao was called to the office by Shizuka Hiratsuka. Shizuka had originally been trying to avoid Rayao. She didn't even dare look in his direction during class, and as soon as it ended, she would leave right away. However, this time, she couldn't escape. A student's parent wanted to ask Rayao about a particular situation, and Shizuka had to be present. Rei-ao, this is the mother of Ariri Spencer Sawamura from Class 3-2, Shizuka said, glancing briefly at Sayuri Sawamura. She couldn't help but notice how young she looked. Sayuri looked young enough to be Ariri's sister, not her mother. Hello, Rei-ao, Sayuri said warmly, a gentle smile on her face. I'm Ariri's mother, Sayuri Sawamura. Rei-ao nodded politely. Hello, Aunt Sawamura. I'm Rei-ao. May I ask what brings you here? Sayuri's gentle eyes studied him carefully. What a handsome and refined young man, she thought, especially drawn to his striking eyes. Out loud, she got straight to the point. Do you know Tomoyaki, Rei-ao? Rei-ao had imagined various reasons why Sayuri might want to talk to him, most of them related to Ariri. He hadn't expected her to ask about Tomoyaki. I do, Rei-ao answered calmly. Sayuri's eyes brightened. Tomoyaki was Ariri's childhood friend. I've heard that you two had a conflict. Could you explain what happened? Shizuka was surprised. She had never heard of any such conflict before. She hadn't expected Rei-ao to have an issue with someone. To avoid any misunderstanding, Sayuri quickly added. Don't worry, Rei-ao. I'm not here to hold you accountable. Ariri was upset about this yesterday, and since I don't know the details, I wasn't sure how to comfort her. That's why I'm asking. I understand your concern for your daughter, Aunt Sawamura, Rei-ao replied. Here's what happened. After a few minutes of explanation, both Sayuri and Shizuka understood the situation. Shizuka rubbed her temples and added. I've heard a bit about Tomoyaki. He tends to impose his passion for ACG culture on others, and his homeroom teacher has had to speak with him about it. Sayuri nodded. She was aware of Tomoyaki's personality. Apologetically, she said. I'm sorry, Rei-ao. It was wrong of me to suspect you based on false assumptions. She was about to bow deeply in apology, but Rei-ao quickly stopped her with a gentle gesture. There's no need for that, Rei-ao said. I've spoken with Ariri before. If this explanation can help ease her worries, that's all that matters. Sayuri was impressed by how understanding Rei-ao was. After confirming the details, she said her goodbyes and left. As Shizuka watched Rei-ao linger in the office, she awkwardly cleared her throat. Rei-ao, if there's nothing else, you can go back to class now. Sensei, Rei-ao said, stepping closer instead of leaving. Shizuka instantly tensed up. Why aren't you leaving? Hee, it feels like you've been avoiding me these past few days, Sensei. And no, I haven't. Shizuka stammered, unable to meet Rei-ao's gaze. Once certain thoughts had entered her mind, they wouldn't leave. Ever since she'd fantasized about Rei-ao helping her with that issue, she hadn't been able to stop picturing him. It was why she had been avoiding him. Every time she indulged in her fantasies, Rei-ao was the image that popped up. Rei-ao chuckled softly. Sensei, you might not know this, but I have a particularly sharp sense of smell. He reached out and gently grabbed Shizuka's right hand, bringing her middle finger to his nose and inhaling deeply. Your fingers have a very distinct scent, Sensei. I wonder what that could be from? He asked suggestively, his voice dripping with implication. Shizuka's face flushed bright red. She knew exactly what he was referring to. She quickly pulled her hand away, trying to regain her composure. Ahem. Rei-ao, you should go back to class. I need to prepare for my next lesson, she said, grabbing a book and pretending to focus intently on her preparations. All right, Rei-ao said, backing off. He knew when to push and when to stop. Just as he reached the door, he turned back with a teasing smile. Oh, by the way, Sensei, your book is upside down. Shizuka froze. Sure enough, her book was upside down. By the time she looked up, Rei-ao had already disappeared. She silently turned her book right side up and stared blankly at her hand. Thump, thump, thump. In the quiet of the office, she could hear her own heart racing. Her mind was in disarray. She couldn't believe she had just been flustered by one of her students. After a long moment, she let out a deep sigh. Sigh. What have I gotten myself into? Chapter 80, Human Tempt the Devil at the corner of the hallway. Found you, Rei-ao. A cute little devil jumped out, blocking Rei-ao's path. It was Satania. Satania, what do you want with me? Rei-ao asked, amused. He actually liked this energetic girl, though it wasn't because he liked troublemakers. It was because of her looks. Satania was cute, after all. Hey, Satania grinned mischievously, pointing at Rei-ao with a white, delicate finger. Then, she said something startling. Rei-ao, become my servant. Ever since that day, Satania had been going on about making Rei-ao her servant. Was she getting a bit too obsessed with him? Rei-ao, intrigued, asked. Actually, Satania, I've been wondering. Why do you want me to be your servant? Of course it's because. Satania paused, putting on a serious face, mimicking someone important. Every S-rank great demon needs a loyal and powerful servant. You understand, right? She blinked expectantly. No, I don't, Rao answered without hesitation. Eh? But it's a classic saying in the demon world. Rao shrugged. Sorry, I'm not from the demon world, so I've never heard of it. Ah. Right. You aren't from the demon world, so that makes sense, Satania mumbled, realizing her mistake. But she didn't give up. She continued. A strong servant is a crucial requirement for me, Satania-sama, to become an S-rank great demon. Trust me, once you help me become a great demon, you can have anything you want. Her tone sounded just like a demon tempting a human. But her next words completely ruined the mood. Satania proudly added. Even if you want a whole room full of melon bread, it's no problem. To her, nothing in the world could be more satisfying than a room full of melon bread. Rao wasn't interested in melon bread, though. He was more entertained by Satania's audacity. This human was trying to tempt a demon. After analyzing her words, Rao came up with an amusing idea. Pretending to understand, he nodded. So, you want me to help you become an S-rank great demon, right? Exactly. Satania exclaimed, excited that Rao was finally getting it. So, will you become my servant? I refuse, Rao said flatly. Eh? But Satania, Rao continued with a sly grin. Have you ever thought about becoming the most special great demon in the demon world? The most special? Satania was intrigued. Rao leaned in with a tempting smile. For example, if you become my servant, I can make you the most powerful S-rank demon. Huh? Satania was stunned. Her, becoming his servant? It sounded completely backward. Before she could process it further, Rao pulled her to the side and switched into full persuasion mode. You know my identity, don't you, Satania? Yeah, you're an awakened one, right? Rao corrected her. No, I'm the first awakened one in the human world. Whoa. Satania's mouth hung open in awe. And not just that, Rao continued. I'm recognized by heaven, hell, and the afterlife. All three worlds. Satania was floored. That sounded so impressive. Do you know how powerful the first awakened one is? Rao asked with a mysterious smile. With a snap of his fingers, the world seemed to shift. Look around, Rao instructed. Satania glanced around and gasped. Everyone's frozen? Everyone in the classroom was stuck in place, as if time had stopped. Not a single person moved or blinked. This is called time freeze, Rao explained. Once his point was made, he returned everything to normal, and the noise of conversations resumed. That's amazing. Satania gasped. I want to learn that. If she had that kind of power, pranking angels would be a breeze. I can teach you, Rao said, his voice laced with temptation. But only if you become my servant. Satania hesitated. But how can a future S-rank great demon become someone else's servant? She muttered. Rao lowered his conditions a bit. Alright, how about this? Instead of becoming my servant, you become my disciple. I'll teach you how to become a great demon. Disciple? Satania's eyes lit up. That was basically becoming an apprentice. Master, please teach me how to become stronger and become a great demon. She exclaimed, readily agreeing to the new terms. Good, Rao said, satisfied that his plan had worked. Now, for the first step of training, physical contact. Now, take my hand, Rao said, holding out his own. Let me teach you the worst thing humans do. The worst? Satania gulped nervously, feeling the gravity of the moment. Slowly, she reached out and took Rao's hand, ready to learn the darkest of secrets. Rao hesitated for just a second before whispering in her ear. The worst thing is love. Love is the worst thing? Satania repeated, confused. Hold on to my hand, Rao instructed. Oh, okay, Satania obeyed, still puzzled. Suddenly, a surge of power flowed through her body, and black energy surrounded her. If Rao hadn't used his ability to erase their presence from others' perception, the scene would have caused a huge commotion. When the black energy dissipated, Satania had undergone a transformation. She was now clad in a sleek black and red armor that radiated power. It was called Satan. Inherent device, Satan. When used, it grants a significant boost to magical power. Rao had bestowed this power upon Satania. Name, Satanikia McDowell Kuramazawa, Level, 29, Abilities, Dragon Power, Demonic Magic, Rao's Blessing, Inherent Device, Satan. Wow. I've gotten stronger? Satania marveled at her new appearance. She looked so cool. Well? Not bad for your first lesson from me, right? Rao asked. Yeah. Satania blushed, looking down at their intertwined hands. But is love really the worst thing? She was still confused about that. Just then, her phone buzzed. Looking at it, her eyes widened in shock. Ding. Your bad deed index has increased. Your allowance has been raised. Satania was overjoyed. Her allowance had increased. It must mean the demon world approved of this bad deed. Master, please keep teaching me, she begged, dropping to her knees in front of Rao. Rao, satisfied with the outcome, wasn't in any rush. We'll continue next time. Class is starting soon. You should head back. Yes, Master. Satania was now fully devoted to Rao. Clearly, he was the key to her becoming an S-rank great demon. He must be like the magical mentor sent by the universe to help her achieve greatness. Although Rao didn't seem old at all. Tricking a little devil like Satania didn't make Rao feel guilty in the slightest. After all, he did keep his promise and made her stronger. As lunchtime approached, Rao sent a message in the group chat. Rao, my library at lunch. Stella? Shizu, what's happening? Sui, no idea. Stella, does something like this need to be said in the group? Honestly. Sukobujujima, maybe Rao isn't in a convenient situation right now. Frieren, going to the library to study? Rao, haha, what else can you do in a library besides read and study? Frieren, true. That wasn't quite accurate. In fact, Rao's question was more rhetorical. What else could you do in a library? Of course, simply studying wouldn't be enough, but with the ability to erase others' awareness, well, you could do a lot more. Guessing what Rao had in mind, Mai squeezed her legs together instinctively and pursed her lips, silently cursing Rao for being such a pervert. Despite her irritation, she still responded in the group chat. Mai Sakurajima, got it. While most of the group didn't pick up on their subtle flirting, Megumi Kato, who was nearby, seemed to realize something, watching Rao's back with a complicated expression. Another person who had thoughts about it was Yumeko Miura. Library, huh? Yumeko, frustrated by Rao's lack of pursuit, decided it was time to accidentally run into him. She had to see how he was trying to win her over. The bell rang, signaling the end of class, and students rushed out of their classrooms. Rao was about to grab lunch with Mai before heading to the library, but as soon as he stepped out of the classroom, he ran into a familiar sight. Utaha Kasamijoka, with her elegant legs clad in black stockings. Rao-kun, here's your lunchbox back, Utaha said, handing over the container. Rao took it with a playful grin. I thought you liked the lunchbox so much you were going to keep it. Utaha's face flushed a little. She had completely forgotten to return it. To make up for her embarrassment, she bowed and offered. How about I treat you to a meal this weekend as an apology? A meal? Of course, I don't mind. Rao had been thinking about how to win Utaha over, and now the opportunity had presented itself. No way he was going to pass up this chance. Those black stocking-clad legs were too tempting to ignore. Seeing Rao agree so readily, Utaha sighed in relief. She'd been worried about not returning the lunchbox sooner, and it was clearly her fault. Kasamijoka-san, you seem to be doing well. Looks like you've been getting enough rest, Rao remarked, causing her to feel a bit awkward. It seemed like Rao remembered her poor health habits all too well, but she couldn't deny it. Thanks to your advice, I've been avoiding staying up late, she admitted truthfully. The experience had scared her, especially after she searched the internet for terms like staying up late and sudden death. The frightening results had thoroughly spooked her. He was right, she thought. If you look up symptoms online, even if you're healthy, the internet will diagnose you with an illness. If you're already sick, it'll tell you that you have cancer. One moment you're fine, the next you're practically writing your will. Ever since then, Utaha had been much more disciplined about her sleep schedule. Even her editor, Machida Sanogo, had noticed a change and commented on her newfound diligence. Each of Rao's comments hit a bit too close to home, so Utaha, feeling embarrassed, decided to end the conversation. She tucked her hair behind her ear and said politely, "Let's exchange contact information so we can confirm the weekend plans." Sure. After they exchanged numbers, Utaha practically fled the scene. As soon as she left, Mai turned to Rao with an amused look on her face. Already got her contact info, and now you've got a weekend date lined up. Are you planning to sleep with her by Sunday? Rao stroked his chin as if seriously considering it. It might be difficult, but I'll do my best. You. Mai was exasperated. This guy really did treat her like part of his harem management. Well, to be honest, she was a bit too invested to leave at this point. So, she sighed and let it slide, but not without a playful warning. No matter how many women you have, you'd better not love me any less or ignore me. Rao, always one to act rather than talk, pulled her close by the waist, whispering in her ear. Today in the library, I'll show you just how much I like you. Eh? Mai's eyes widened in embarrassment, her face flushing bright red. No way. If they did that, she wouldn't be able to focus on her afternoon classes at all. Haha. Raoul's mischievous grin never left his face. Humphrey. Mai, knowing she couldn't stop him, could only glare at him in embarrassment. Chapter 81, Mai's shyness, Yumiko's confusion, Ayuri's mom loneliness, Gabriel's addictiveness. The library. Not here yet. Yumiko, wearing a hat and mask, sat in her seat, frequently glancing toward the entrance. She was waiting for Raoul and Mai Sakurajima. She had even skipped lunch for this. Turning her head once again. This time, she saw them. Raoul and Mai walked in side by side. Yumiko quickly pulled her hat lower, trying not to be noticed. Little did she know, Raoul had already spotted her out of the corner of his eye. However, he didn't greet her or tell Mai. Instead, he quietly led the shy and blushing Mai toward a secluded corner of the library, where no one was around. I'll see what you two are up to. Yumiko silently followed them, keeping her distance. But after reaching the empty corner, Yumiko suddenly paused, feeling confused. Wait. What was I doing here again? She looked around at the empty sofa and table, surrounded by shelves full of books. The library. I guess I came here to read? Unsure of herself, she grabbed a random book and started flipping through it aimlessly. Her mind, however, still wondered if reading was truly why she was there. What Yumiko didn't notice was that Mai was kneeling right in front of her at the table. And behind her was an excited Raoul. Mai, your ability to disappear from perception is really useful. I love it. Mai turned to him with a dazed and resentful look but didn't dare speak. Despite knowing how the ability worked, she was still afraid of being discovered by Yumiko. Her helpless expression only made Raoul even more excited. He truly wished he could take full advantage of Mai Sakurajima in that moment. But for now, he had to turn that desire into the fuel that kept him going. Under his manipulation, Mai couldn't help but murmur, though even she probably didn't know what she was saying. The power of disappearing from perception didn't just make her invisible or forgotten, it also ensured that anyone about to touch her, even without seeing her, would instinctively avoid doing so. They would subconsciously believe their avoidance was completely reasonable. This gave Raoul the chance to take things even further. For instance, right now, Yumiko was lying on the sofa, her book in hand, completely unaware of the fact that Mai and Raoul were practically right on top of her, their movements unnoticed. At Ayuri's home. After crying her heart out, Ayuri had taken the day off from school. When Sayuri came home from school, she didn't say much. She quietly prepared lunch while seeming to be deep in thought. When lunch was ready, Sayuri called out as usual. Ayuri, lunch is ready. I'm not hungry, Mom, came the muffled response from Ayuri's room. Sayuri wasn't surprised, but she knew she had to get Ayuri out. She decided to take a firm tone. Ayuri, I have something important to discuss with you. Come out first. After a brief silence in the room, Ayuri replied. Okay. Ayuri opened her door and came out. Her eyes were still red and puffy from crying. She washed her hands and sat down at the table but didn't touch any of the food. Seeing this, Sayuri put down her utensils and looked at her seriously. Ayuri, I know everything about you and Tomoyuki. Ayuri looked up, sniffling, as tears threatened to fall again. But Sayuri cut in sharply. No crying. Ayuri froze. It was the first time her mother had ever raised her voice at her, and it startled her so much that she forgot to cry. Seeing her daughter's fear, Sayuri's tone softened again out of concern. Ayuri, let me tell you this. It's not your fault, and I think you should cut ties with Tomoyuki. Huh? Ayuri was confused. Why was her mother saying this? Sayuri sighed deeply as she looked at her dazed daughter. Actually, today I went to school and talked to Raoul. The truth is, Tomoya's conflict with him started because Tomoya harassed a girl. Not only that, Sayuri explained that Tomoya hadn't came to school because he had been in a bike accident. She even went so far as to show Ayuri footage of the accident, which she had retrieved from the scene. In the video, Tomoya could be seen stopping and staring ahead for a long time, his expression growing darker before he suddenly sped up, lost control, and crashed into the road. The key moment? The people Tomoya had been staring at were Raoul and Megumi Kato, walking together. Ayuri, that girl is the one Tomoya harassed that morning, Sayuri explained. Raoul was just trying to protect her, and that's why he had a conflict with Tomoya. As for the accident, you saw it. I believe it was Tomoya's own grudge that led to his crash. Ayuri was overwhelmed, her mind in chaos. But under Sayuri's careful guidance, Ayuri began to believe that Tomoya had been in the wrong, and his jealousy toward Raoul had led to the accident. That's exactly what Sayuri intended. She had no proof of Tomoya's intentions but firmly believed her own interpretation. Combined with the insulting messages Tomoya had sent Ariri the previous day, Sayuri was determined that Ariri should cut ties with him. She subtly steered her daughter's thoughts in that direction. As Ariri sat there in shock, Sayuri handed her Ariri's cracked phone. "Ariri, I've seen the hurtful messages Tomoya sent you. So, trust me and end things with him." After Sayuri's persistent efforts, Ariri finally changed her mind. "Okay, Mom, you're right," Ariri said, wiping the tears from her eyes. She decided to follow her mother's advice and sever all contact with Tomoyaki. She blocked him on every platform. Seeing this, Sayuri felt relieved. She then lightened the mood by teasing. "By the way, Ariri, I heard you know Rayao. How did you two meet?" "Well." The question made Ariri blush and look down, fidgeting with her fingers. "Oh?" Sayuri's eyes lit up. An unexpected bonus. She immediately sensed that there was more to the story. Smiling meaningfully, she said, "It's okay, Ariri. I've met Rayao, and I think he's a great guy. Why don't you tell me?" "Well. Okay," Ariri mumbled, her face turning even redder as she recounted how she met Rayao. Sayuri listened, astonished. In summary, a charming, cool guy rescued her, kept her secret, honored his promise, and didn't judge her for her unique hobbies. TSK. After hearing all that, Sayuri doubted her naive daughter stood a chance against such a series of events, even though they had happened by chance. One look at Ariri's flushed face, and she could tell exactly what was on her mind. Sayuri didn't expose her daughter's thoughts. Instead, she smiled and said, "Looks like I wasn't wrong about Rayao. He really is a good person. Right?" Ariri's eyes sparkled as if someone had just praised her for finding a hidden gem, a sight that made Sayuri chuckle. Smiling warmly, Sayuri suggested, "Since Rayao helped you out, why don't we invite him over this weekend for a proper thank you? After all, with just the two of them at home, inviting someone over didn't need anyone else's approval." "Sure, Mom. I'll ask him," Ariri said excitedly, her face filled with anticipation, though she still felt a bit anxious about how Rayao might react if he knew about her real hobbies. Seeing her daughter's mixed emotions, Sayuri felt certain that Tomoyaki was no longer important to her. She decided not to dwell on Tomoya's condition any longer. Sigh, Ariri's growing up, Sayuri thought, her mind wandering. If Ariri gets married, I'll be left alone in this house. For a moment, a sense of loneliness washed over her. What am I even doing? Yumeko rubbed her head in frustration. Lunchtime was almost over, and she had spent the entire break reading in the library. She felt like she had forgotten something important today. Standing up from the sofa, she suddenly noticed. Where did this water come from? Her pants were unexpectedly wet. Had she brought a water bottle with her? Sigh, today has been so weird, she muttered. She pulled some tissues from her pocket and carefully wiped off the strange mixture of liquid. After cleaning up, she glanced around the empty corner of the library but couldn't figure out why she felt so unsettled, so she left with a sense of confusion. On the other side of the sofa, Mai, lying in Rayao's arms, looked up with a gaze full of silent resentment. "Rayao, don't you think you've gone too far?" Mai asked, her voice tinged with accusation. Rayao pondered for a moment. "Yes, I might have. I'll make it up to Yumeko later. But for now, should we go back to class or head home?" "I can't go back. Let's just go home," Mai said, exhausted. "All right, but get dressed first." "No. You need to get off me first." Sigh. "Fine." Meanwhile, back at home, Gabriel plopped down as if a huge weight had been lifted off her shoulders. "Gab, you've been acting really strange lately," remarked Raphael, who had returned with her, a strange look on her face. Gabriel had been behaving oddly. No motivation in class and rushing straight to her room whenever she got home, just like now. "Raphael, I'm fine. I'm just tired. I'm going to sleep," Gabriel said before disappearing into her room and shutting the door. Raphael narrowed her eyes. Something's definitely up with Gab. Once inside, Gabriel dropped her bag and ran to her computer to start gaming. The once studious Gabriel was no more. Now, all she wanted to do was play video games. She spent the entire evening in front of the screen, healing characters with her staff of God until it was late at night, even forgetting to eat dinner. Until... Ding. "Sorry, your superior healing spell cannot treat this injury. You must use a basic holy healing spell?" Gabriel stared blankly at the screen. Why can't the superior spell work? Why does it need a basic one? She quickly realized her mistake. There were two different spells, healing and holy healing. Frantically, she searched through her inventory for an item with a basic holy healing skill. She found it. God's Feather grants the ability to cast basic holy healing when equipped. Price, 5,000. Gabriel's eye twitched. She didn't have the money. Taking her hands off the keyboard, Gabriel stood up. Was she going to stop playing? Not a chance. She needed to borrow money. And there was only one person to turn to. Gabriel quietly slipped out of her room, trying not to wake Raphael in the next room, and made her way out into the night. She rang Rayao's doorbell, hoping not to be noticed. Rayao opened the door in his pajamas and slippers. Seeing Gabriel at this hour, he wasn't even surprised. He knew she had been on a downward spiral lately, losing all her angelic standards. Sure enough, Gabriel stretched out her hand. Rayao, can I borrow 5,000? Her stomach growled right after she spoke. Rayao gave her a strange look. Gabriel, did you forget to eat because of your games? Gabriel scratched her head, unsure of what to say. Come in, Rayao sighed, letting her into the room. Sit on the sofa and wait. He went into the kitchen and grabbed 2 slices of bread from the fridge. Realizing what he was doing, Gabriel said awkwardly. You don't have to, just lend me the money. Rayao shot her a disapproving look. Skipping meals for games? You're really something. I was saving the world. Gabriel insisted, absolutely refusing to admit it was just a game. Rayao merely chuckled at her denial. Chapter 82, Suai has been poisoned. On the other side. As soon as Gabriel left, the door to the room across from hers opened. Raphael, dressed in white pajamas, poked her head out. She listened carefully but couldn't hear any movement from Gabriel. She went out? What could Gabriel be doing at this hour? They hadn't received any assignments from heaven regarding the living beings in the human world. After waiting a bit longer and confirming Gabriel wasn't coming back, Raphael stepped out of her room and approached Gabriel's. She was curious about what kept Gabriel cooped up in there, day after day. She tried the door. It opened. Inside the dim room, there was a faint glow. Following the light, Raphael saw a computer screen displaying a game interface and an in-game purchase ad. PFFT. Raphael immediately connected all the dots. No wonder Gabriel had been so listless every day, recently skimping on meals. Turns out she had fallen into what humans call an internet addiction. If this continues, Gabriel is going to fall from grace, right? Raphael thought to herself. Surprisingly, her first reaction wasn't concern but excitement. She was practically giddy. If Gab falls, that could be so much fun. Raphael felt like she'd just found a new source of entertainment besides teasing the naive little demon. Meanwhile, in her sleep, Satania sneezed, sprawled out across her bed. She didn't wake up. Her little hand rubbed her exposed belly. Hee. In her dream, she was becoming an S-class demon under her master's guidance. She was punching Raphael and stomping on Gabriel. Heh. A strange chuckle escaped her lips. In her dream, Gabriel was licking Satania's feet while ravenously devouring food. Slow down, looks like you're starving. Gabriel didn't reply. In her efforts to save 20 RMB, she'd been living on the bare minimum, barely eating enough. Rayao. Sensing the coolness in her body disappearing, Mai woke up as well. Dressed in lace lingerie, she stepped out of her room and saw the two of them. Rayao shook his head. This one just rang the doorbell a bit ago, nothing to worry about. Go back to sleep. Alright. Mai, still drowsy, returned to the bedroom but couldn't help mentioning. You should get some sleep soon, too. She just wanted her cooling pack back. After all, she'd been completely worn out from the day's activities. Too much friction creates too much heat. But Rayao, no matter what, was always cool and refreshing. When he was still, he could reduce her temperature. Mai seemed quite addicted to that feeling. Gabriel, mid-bite into a piece of toast, froze. Mai's outfit had been so revealing. She's my girlfriend. What's the issue? Your girlfriend? Gabriel's eyes went wide. Was this the legendary human experience of love? Well, she didn't get it. Oh. Nothing. Gabriel quickly lowered her head, continuing to eat as if she'd seen nothing at all. In silence, she finished her toast. Rayao transferred the money to her. Alright, the money's sent. Don't forget our deal. Got it. Gabriel nodded eagerly like a pecking chicken. I'll work over the weekend and definitely pay you back. Having eaten, gotten her money, and renewed her resolve, Gabriel hurried out. Now, she could continue saving the world. As he watched her leave, Rayao smirked knowingly. Gabriel was getting deeper and deeper into the hole. He was very much looking forward to reaping the benefits later. But before that, there seemed to be a small issue to deal with. Ding. Suai has sent a trade request, trade contents, help her with detoxification. Ding. Please select trade terms, poison? Rayao was surprised. Suai was poisoned? Rayao, Suai, what kind of poison are you dealing with? He sent the message to the group chat, but no one responded for a moment. It seemed serious. However, it also appeared that Sui no longer had the means or items to offer in exchange for help. Requesting body rights at this point might seem a bit opportunistic. Still, Rao decided to go and take a look first, regardless of the situation. In the cramped hotel room, Sui lay on the bed, clutching Rao's coat, her breathing rapid and her body writhing in discomfort. Her face was flushed with an unnatural redness as her consciousness began to blur. She had been poisoned by a powerful aphrodisiac. A toxin she couldn't counter on her own. If the effects continued, she feared she'd be consumed by the uncontrollable desire. So, before she lost all reason, she initiated a call for help. Ding. Your trade request has been accepted. Trade terms, one-time body usage. Ding. Do you confirm the trade? Exclamation mark. Finally, a response. Given the trade terms, she had no choice but to accept. Struggling, she muttered. See confirm. Ding. Trade initiated. Trade partner, Sui. Trade content, help with detoxification. Trade terms, one-time body usage. Duration, 3 hours. The noise from the notification woke some in the chat group. Stella, Sui is poisoned? Shizu, she hasn't replied. It seems serious. Rao, it is quite serious. Rao watched as Sui's body twisted more sensually, her eyes glazed over with desire. He quickly realized what kind of poison had taken hold. It was an aphrodisiac. He recalled that she had encountered such a drug before, while she and a beastman warrior sought an antidote. But this time, the warrior wasn't here, and yet Sui had fallen victim to it again. She clearly wasn't doing well. Rao stepped forward, extending his hand, intending to place it on her forehead. But before he could, Sui's gaze locked onto him, her eyes clouded with desire. Instantly overtaken by her longing, she moved. Ah! His outstretched finger was suddenly taken into her mouth. It was clear that the aphrodisiac had deeply affected her. Rao realized that even if he fully took advantage of the situation now, Sui wouldn't resist. In fact, she might even become more willing. But he had a certain moral boundary he preferred not to cross. Freeze. He used his power to freeze the drug circulating in her bloodstream, simultaneously cooling her overheated body. Ugh! The sudden sensation of coolness sent a shiver through Sui's body. At that moment, her mind cleared. She looked up, locking eyes with Rao. He smiled gently. Feeling more clear-headed now? Would you mind letting go of my hand? Sui instinctively licked her lips. Startled, she snapped back to full awareness and quickly released his hand, her face flushing even more deeply than before. Rao asked curiously. You do realize you were affected by an aphrodisiac, right? Sui lowered her head in embarrassment. It was an accident. She had fallen into a trap while exploring a dungeon, enduring the effects of the drug as she managed to escape. Seeing her reluctance to explain further, Rao didn't press the issue. Instead, he pointed out. You should check the chat group. Oh. Obediently, Sui looked at the chat. A few seconds later. She let out a mortified squeal. The trade terms. Rao shrugged. There wasn't much left to offer, this was your only option. Oh? Sui suddenly remembered that she had used up her other trade conditions during the deal with the poisoned dragon. This. She covered her face with both hands, retreating to the corner of the bed, unable to meet Rao's eyes. What should she do? Her mind was flooded with thoughts. Scenes from explicit scenarios she encountered flashed through her head. Rao, however, remained calm. I understand that you were out of it earlier, so tell me. What are you thinking now? It wasn't that he was obsessed with her body, but rather, he approached every person differently, with varying strategies. In Sui's case, he knew he didn't need to push too hard. Sui whimpered softly, torn with confusion. She knew she should honor the contract. But that particular act. She sneaked a glance at Rao. Thud, thud, thud. Her heart pounded rapidly. So embarrassing. In a small voice, she hesitantly asked. Rao, what? What do you think of me? My thoughts? You're beautiful, you have a great figure, you're capable. And, very tempting. Rao's direct answer shattered any defenses Sui had left. Being praised like that, she found it hard to resist. But she had one last concern. Rao. Does it bother you that I'm an elf? She admitted she felt something for him, given that he had saved her twice, but she feared he might be put off by the fact that she was an elf and he was human. So that's what's on your mind. Rao moved closer, locking eyes with her green gaze. I don't care about race, he said earnestly. Besides, have you forgotten that I can become an elf too? In the next moment, Sui felt a shift in his aura. It was an overwhelmingly powerful elven presence. Rao had transformed into the Elven King, the same form that had made her instinctively want to bow down before him the first time they met. But he quickly reverted to his human form. He didn't want to intimidate her. Sui, stunned, murmured. I forgot. So, do you really think I'd reject you for being an elf? He reached out and gently brushed aside the strands of hair that had fallen in front of her face during her earlier struggle with the drug's effects. Sui remained frozen in place, feeling her heartbeat accelerate. Rao then spoke plainly. From the first moment I saw you, I knew one thing. What thing? Sui asked, her nervousness spiking as she held his gaze at such close proximity. I wanted you, Sui. He was simply expressing his true feelings. A confession. Overcome with emotion, Sui blushed even harder, practically steaming. At that moment, Rao began to pull away. I understand if you weren't in your right mind when agreeing to the trade. I won't pressure you. I've said my piece. We can meet again later. But just as he was about to leave, he felt a hand tugging at the corner of his shirt. Sui, her face turned to the side, muttered softly. A contract. Should be honored, right? Rao knew his reverse psychology had worked. Sui was, without a doubt, the easiest woman in this world to win over. With a slight smile, he asked. Are you sure, Sui? Why yes. You've saved my life twice now, so. If it's you, Rao. I don't mind. Her voice grew quieter and quieter, fully revealing her feelings. She was utterly shy. As soon as she finished speaking, Rao pulled his coat away and gently laid her down on the bed. He whispered softly. Then from now on, Sui, you'll be my elven princess. Eh? Sui gasped in shock. After all, she had kept her true royal identity as the elven princess hidden, and yet. How did Rao know? In the chat group, Stella, what's going on with Sui? What does the situation doesn't look good mean? Stella, Rao, where are you? Leaving half a message like that was making her anxious. She couldn't sleep without knowing the outcome. Shizu, since Rao has already gone to her, there shouldn't be any issue, right? Stella, but it's poison. If it's gotten deep into her system, it could be too late. Friren, I'm surprised you're still awake. Akam, the trade notification woke me up. Maybe it's because I'm always tense, even in my sleep. Stella, it's just the few of us here. Seems like Kato and the others are probably all fast asleep. Friren, alright. Friren, when it comes to poison, I don't think there's too much to worry about. Shizu, Miss Friren, do you know something about this? Friren, calling me Miss feels a bit strange. Just call me Friren. Shizu, oh, alright. Friren, I only have a theory about Rao's abilities. Friren, freezing. According to what he said, he can freeze space and time in the true sense. That means it should also apply to a living being's consciousness, senses, or even the flow of toxins. Stella, are you saying Rao can completely neutralize the poison in Sui's system? Friren, it's just my guess. I don't know for sure. Chapter 83, Utaha Kasimijoka, Path. Rao, Friren, you guessed right. Stella, so, you can still talk. Rao, why are you so anxious? I'm not in a rush. He was deliberately slowing things down because Sui had no experience and he had to take it slow. Friren, so, you really froze the toxins, huh? Your ability is quite interesting. Rao, at first, yes. But Sui asked me to use another method to completely detoxify her. Stella, what method? Rao, you know, doing what couples do. Stella? Shizu, can that really cure the poison? Stella, are you fooling Sui? Rao smiled, looking at Sui in front of him. Gently moving, he kissed her lips and laughed. The group thinks I'm tricking you. What do you say? Sui's body shuddered, her eyes filled with warmth. She sent a message to the group, Sui, Rao didn't trick me. I was poisoned. With an aphrodisiac. Stella? Friren, that explains it. Using that method makes sense. Rao, shall I start a live stream to prove it? Sui, no. It's too embarrassing. Rao, alright then, I won't. Anyway, I need to focus on helping Sui detoxify. Stella. This chat group. It's done for. Yawn. Yumiko Mira let out a yawn as she got up for a midnight bathroom break. Dressed in thigh-high socks and pajamas, still half asleep, she glimpsed at the chat group. Rao. Mumbling his name, she suddenly jolted awake. She remembered. Wasn't she supposed to accidentally run into Rao at the library today? How had she completely forgotten? Weird. She found it odd but brushed it off as the sound of water echoed. As she sat there, now more awake, she glanced through the chat and realized what had happened overnight. Clenching her teeth in frustration, she muttered, another one. It felt like Rao was a sneaky cat, always finding new places to get into trouble. This is all the fault of the trade function. Yumiko was full of resentment towards the trade system. If there were no such thing, wouldn't Rao have to focus only on her? Wait. As the water flow quieted, a thought hit her: couldn't I also use the trade system? But then, a major problem popped up. How could she make a trade with Rao that felt natural without showing she liked him too much? Sitting there deep in thought, she looked like a thinker statue. On the toilet. Good times always seemed to be fleeting, for both Rao and Sui. Sui clung to Rao's neck, reluctant to let go. Rao gently held her smooth back. Sui, have you made up your mind? Yes. Resting her chin on his shoulder, Sui responded lovingly. Rao, I want to be your wife, and I want to have your children in the future. From the first time you saved my life, I couldn't help but fall for you. And now, you've saved me again. Perhaps she was someone easily touched. Having given everything to him, she had decided to commit to this man in front of her. In that case, I'll grant you my protection. Rao kissed her on the forehead. Sui felt warmth spread across her skin, followed by a sudden heat. Golden light began to emit from her body. Name, Sui, level, 26, abilities, dragon power, light spirit, spirit magic, Rao's blessing, inherent device, spirit princess. Inherent device, spirit princess, a magical sword that greatly enhances magical power. Rao. I can control light energy freely now. Sui excitedly clapped her arms, and golden light danced happily in her palms. Rao smiled gently. My blessing goes beyond that. As you defeat stronger creatures, you will also grow stronger. Huh? Sui had never heard of growing stronger in that way before. She suddenly remembered the last time Rao asked her to help with monster hunting missions. So, that's why Rao was training last time. I want to try it now. But in her excitement, their connection was broken. Ah. Sui's face flushed bright red. She had been so caught up in the moment that she had forgotten what they were doing. Now, she buried her face in Rao's chest in embarrassment. Seeing her cute, shy reaction, Rao knew he couldn't waste any time in this world. Sui, initiate another trade request. This time, say it's to help you hunt monsters. Realizing his intention, Sui nodded, understanding that time was running short. Ding. Trade initiated, trade with, Sui, purpose, help her hunt monsters. Condition, body usage rights, once. Time limit, 3 hours. Seeing the trade condition, Sui's body felt even hotter. Though Rao had the urge, he resisted. Leaning closer, he whispered into her sensitive, pointed elf ear, let's hunt monsters first. I'll claim my reward later, when I get to enjoy the spirit of the forest. Name, Sui, level, 28, name, Rao, level, 42. Those were their final results. Sui had leveled up by 2, while Rao's progress was slower. Now that he needed stronger monsters to grow, simply accepting missions to locate creatures was inefficient. If only there were a chaotic land or an area overrun with monsters, he could rampage freely. But his flexible moral compass kept him from doing that. In the natural forest, Rao received Sui's payment, but he also gave back plenty in return. In fact, it was so much that Sui cried out that she couldn't handle any more. The next 2 days were rather peaceful. Rao had successfully become a master of time management, balancing between Ayam and a few other girls. Along the way, he also managed to level them up across different worlds. Everyone had made significant progress in their abilities. Sui, level 30, Kajika, level 12, Ray, level 10, Ayam, level 20, Mai, level 17, Siko, level 22. As for himself, Rao had reached level 43. Of course, he wouldn't miss out on the opportunity for some fun. In a well-coordinated effort, he orchestrated a group event in Siko's world. He enjoyed himself thoroughly, but it left Saya Takagi and Shizuka Marikawa struggling to sleep. Completely unable to rest. This combination of leveling up and enjoyment continued until Saturday. That morning, Rao received his first message from Utaha Kasamijouka, one of his newer contacts. Utaha Kasamijouka, sorry, Rao-kun. My plans have changed a bit over the last couple of days, and I've been debating how to tell you. Rao, plans changed? Utaha Kasamijouka, yes, it's hard to explain in writing. If you don't mind, could you meet me at? I'll explain everything after I finish up here. Rao, sure, I'm pretty free. Although curious, he didn't mind meeting up to see what these changes were. When Rao arrived at the location Utaha mentioned, he found a long line outside a bookstore. At the front of the queue, he spotted Utaha herself, disguised with a cap and mask, diligently signing books for fans. He quickly realized it was a book signing event for her fans. Despite the heat, Utaha was bundled up tightly. Even with a fan blowing nearby, it was clear she was working hard. "Excuse me, are you Rei-Kun?" A mature woman in a tight-fitting skirt, sheer black stockings, and high heels approached him. Rei-Ao's eyes brightened. The woman exuded an air of sophistication and had a lovely face, even with light makeup. He had a feeling he knew who she was. "Yes, that's me," Rei-Ao replied. "Nice to meet you, Rei-Kun. I'm Sanoka Machida, Utaha's editor. She asked me to greet you and take care of you for now." So, it was the editor. They looked quite alike, Rei-Ao thought. If they stood side by side, people might mistake them for sisters. "Please, follow me," Sanoka continued, leading him to a nearby rest area. She handed him some tea and sat across from him. After taking a closer look at Rei-Ao, she couldn't help but comment. "Rei-Kun, you're even more handsome in person than in the photo Utaha showed me. For a moment, I thought you might be a celebrity." The photo must have been the one Utaha requested earlier in the morning. It was probably to help Sanoka recognize him. "Thank you for the compliment," Rei-Ao responded, always appreciating a good compliment. To further the conversation, he added, "I assume Kasumi-Joka-san is a light novel author? This is a fan signing event, right? You didn't know?" Sanoka seemed surprised. Rei-Ao shrugged. "Was I supposed to?" Realizing her mistake, Sanoka quickly apologized. "I'm sorry, that was presumptuous of me. I thought Rei-Kun might be Utaha's boyfriend, but judging from how you refer to her, it doesn't seem like you're that close." "It's fine," Rei-Ao smiled. "We're just regular classmates. I helped her with something before, and she wanted to thank me by treating me to a meal." "Ah, I see." Sanoka nodded, understanding the situation now. She had misunderstood. However, as she continued observing Rei-Ao, her eyes gleamed. He was truly exceptional. His appearance, demeanor, and confidence were all top-notch. If she were younger, she might have pursued him herself. But, being a bit older and still single, she could only sigh inwardly. Still, if it wasn't her, why not help Utaha? With that thought, Sanoka pulled out one of Utaha's novels and enthusiastically began introducing it to Rei-Ao. "This is one of Utaha's light novels. It's sold nearly 600,000 copies." She went on to share Utaha's success as an author and explain the story of the book. Rei-Ao listened patiently, occasionally responding. Having someone talk endlessly about something in front of him could be amusing, especially when the person was attractive. After about half an hour, Utaha finally arrived. She waved her tired hand, removed her cap and mask, revealing hair drenched with sweat. The reason she'd put in so much effort was to avoid showing her face, as it would attract unnecessary attention. Especially since she was still a student. Seeing Sanoka chatting happily with Rei-Ao, Utaha asked, "What were you two talking about?" "Utaha, you're here." Sanoka stood up, handing her a tissue to wipe off the sweat. "Now that you're here, I'll go handle the rest." She waved goodbye to Rei-Ao as she left. "I'll leave him in your care." Utaha wiped her face while noticing one of her books on the table. Hesitant, she asked. "Rei-Kun, she didn't say anything weird, did she?" Rei-Ao smiled. "Nothing strange. She just told me about Yutaka Kasumi's impressive achievements and explained the story of the novel." For some reason, hearing that made Utaha feel embarrassed. "Ah, don't mind what she said. I found it quite interesting, actually," Rei-Ao replied, picking up the book. "How about Yutaka Kasumi-sensei signing a copy for me? Maybe in the future, when you become a famous writer, I can say I got your autograph." For reasons she couldn't explain, Utaha felt incredibly embarrassed by Rei-Ao's request. She never felt like this with her fans. After all, she usually just calmly signed their books. But hearing this from Rei-Ao made her want to crawl into a hole. Forcing herself to sign his copy, Utaha barely managed to keep her composure and quickly turned away, coughing lightly. "Ahem, I've finished up here, so let's go. I'll treat you to that meal." But Rei-Ao shook his head. "No rush. Considering how much you've been sweating, you should probably shower first." Utaha stiffly turned back around. "Do I smell?" She knew her clothes were drenched, but still hoped Rei-Ao would say no. However, Rei-Ao sniffed the air and casually replied. "There's a bit of a smell, but I have a sensitive nose. I doubt anyone else would notice." It was as if a bolt of lightning had struck her. Utaha wanted to sink into the ground. "I need to shower immediately." Chapter 84, Sanoka Machida was attacked. Too greedy wolves to take a shower, Utaha specifically booked 2 hotel rooms. One for herself and one for Rei-Ao. Lunch was simply dealt with by ordering delivery, postponing the dinner invitation to the evening. Booking a hotel in broad daylight. That was indeed unusual. In Utaha's hotel room bathroom, she scrubbed herself vigorously with body wash, occasionally sniffing her skin. Despite not detecting any strange smells, Raoul's comment about his sensitive nose lingered like a haunting echo in her mind. Could there really still be a smell? Even when she stepped out of her room in the evening and saw Raoul, Utaha awkwardly asked. Is there still a smell? Raoul chuckled. Yes. Utaha felt like dying on the spot. But Raoul quickly added. Though it's just a faint fragrance? Utaha blinked in confusion, then gave him a slightly resentful look. Raoul-kun, if that's the case, please say it all at once. Haha, I'll remember for next time. They left the hotel and headed to a restaurant recommended by Utaha. Raoul, not wanting her to overspend over something minor, ordered a few affordable dishes. Sitting across from each other, Utaha felt even more awkward. This was one of the few times she had been this embarrassed in front of a guy. Moreover, she didn't have much experience eating face-to-face with one. After a long silence, unsure of what to say, she felt the sharp tongue that her editor had once described as her strength utterly fail her in front of Raoul. Just when she thought the awkward atmosphere might continue, Raoul broke the silence. Kazumi-juku-san, I'm curious. What made you decide to become a light novel author? Utaha was momentarily stunned. Why are you interested in that? No particular reason. I just wanted to know more about you. Raoul smiled gently. Seeing his calm, cool demeanor, Utaha's heart skipped a beat. It was the first time someone had spoken to her like this. After a few seconds, she composed herself and began sharing the story of how she became a light novel author. With the conversation flowing, the two quickly found common ground. Raoul, acting as an attentive listener, truly seemed interested in her words, encouraging her to open up. Before she knew it, Utaha was recounting not only her initial motivations but also the struggles she faced, the moments when she considered giving up, and the darker times in her journey. She spoke at length, her heart growing fuller and more complex as she shared. Time flew by, and soon, 2.5 hours had passed. Yet Utaha still hadn't had enough. It was the first time she had opened up to someone like this. She couldn't explain why, but talking to Raoul felt calming, as though he offered a sense of peace, leading her to reveal more than she ever had, even to her family. Realizing she had revealed so much of herself, Utaha said. Raoul-kun, we've been talking about me this whole time. What about you? After all, she hardly knew anything about him. Me? Raoul glanced at his phone. We'll have to save that for another time. Looking at the time, it was already 9:30 p.m. It's getting late. It could be dangerous for you to be out alone this late. Utaha gasped. Is it that late already? She hadn't realized how quickly time had passed. Maybe you got so immersed in sharing your story that you lost track of time, Raoul suggested. Sorry, Utaha stammered, feeling guilty for taking up so much of his time. But Raoul just smiled. No need to apologize. I actually enjoyed seeing this more sincere side of you. Utaha felt her face heat up. She quickly stood up, flustered. Thanks. I'll go settle the bill. She hurried off to the front, afraid that if she stayed any longer, her pounding heart might give her away. She'd never felt like this before. It was strange. But also a little exciting. After paying, the two left the restaurant. It was dark outside, and the streets were mostly empty except for a few passing cars. The cool evening breeze was a welcome contrast to the day's heat, but Utaha still felt warmer than ever. Walking side by side with Raoul, her heart wouldn't stop racing. When Raoul offered to walk her home, she didn't refuse. Almost as if compelled by some invisible force. Now, they were making their way toward her apartment, and Utaha once again fell silent, her mind racing with thoughts. Utaha. Say something, this is getting awkward. Suddenly, her phone rang, breaking the silence like a lifeline. Grateful for the interruption, she stopped and said. Sorry, let me take this. Go ahead. Raoul stopped under a streetlight while she answered the call. It was her editor, Sanoka Machida. You're my savior, Machida-san, Utaha thought gratefully as she answered. But Sanoko's drunken voice came through the phone. Hey, Utaha, how's it going? Did you snag that handsome guy yet? The words were loud and clear. Utaha turned and saw Raoul looking at her. He had definitely heard. It was the ultimate social death. Afraid Raoul might get the wrong idea, she quickly cut Sanoko off. Machida-san, don't say things like that. Raoul-kun and I are just. But what were they? Friends, Raoul said calmly. Utaha froze for a moment, her blush deepening. Why yes, we're just friends. Oh come on, Utaha, Sanoko slurred. As someone older and wiser, let me tell you, don't miss out on such a good catch. Utaha winced. Sanoko was clearly drunk, rambling on with no filter. I think you two are a perfect match. Don't be like me, stuck as an old maid. Utaha could hear the slight catch in her editor's voice. If I were 10 years younger, I might have gone for him myself. When I talked to the handsome Rao-kun earlier, it almost reignited the spark of my youth. Utaha felt utterly mortified. While she could agree on two things: Rao's appearance and his calming presence during conversations. Sanoko couldn't be allowed to keep rambling on like this. She didn't want Rao to think her editor was some kind of weirdo. Pulling herself together, she tried to cut Sanoko off. "Machida-san, you're drunk." "Well, yeah," Sanoko replied. "It was a company dinner, and I got a little emotional and had a few extra drinks, but I'm fine." This was not fine at all. She was clearly saying nonsense. "Wait, Utaha, there are two guys hitting on me. Is this good luck?" Utaha's eyes widened in shock. Two guys hitting on a drunk Sanoko? Realizing the situation was dangerous, she quickly asked. "Machida-san, that's not luck. Where are you?" "Where?" "I'm standing outside. Ramen shop." "Okay, go inside right now." Utaha's concern was evident. Despite Sanoko's teasing and carefree attitude, she had always been a supportive editor, especially when Utaha's novel was on the verge of being cancelled. She couldn't let anything happen to her. But then, strange noises came through the phone. "Huh? Why are you guys taking my phone? Hey! Get away from me." Crash. The line went dead. "Machida-san." Realizing something had gone terribly wrong, Utaha panicked. Rao had overheard the conversation and quickly reassured her. "Don't worry, Utaha. It's not far from here. Let's get there quickly." "Right. Let's go." A few minutes later, they arrived at the entrance of the restaurant where Sanoko Machida had mentioned. The restaurant had long since closed, and all they found was a handbag lying on the ground. "This is Machida-san's bag." Utaha panicked. "We should call the police." "No need," Rao said, narrowing his eyes. This wasn't just some thugs or a kidnapping. Before Utaha could question why, Rao disappeared in a flash, reappearing 100 meters away at the entrance of a dark alley. Utaha blinked, thinking she was seeing things. Rao, however, was focused on the pitch-black alley. Deep within, behind a trash can, Sanoko Machida was crouched, trembling in fear. She was barefoot, her face pale with terror. The alcohol that had dulled her senses earlier had completely worn off. What she initially thought was two men trying to hit on her had turned into a nightmare when they suddenly shoved her into the dark alley. They showed no mercy, and one of them had even covered her phone, stopping her from calling for help. To her horror, the two men's bodies began to swell and change right before her eyes, transforming into terrifying monsters. That sight had sobered her up completely, filling her with paralyzing fear. Her legs had given out, but she had forced herself to run and hide behind a small trash can, her heart pounding wildly. "Am I going to die here?" she thought, her mind racing. 30 years old, still a virgin, and this is how it ends? Eaten by monsters. Tears welled up in Sanoko Machida's eyes. "If I survive this, I'll date the first decent guy I see, no matter what." But her thoughts quickly turned to despair as the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the alley. Each step felt like a dagger stabbing her heart. "I don't want to die." Then, she felt a chilling sensation wash over her body. She curled up even tighter, burying her head in her knees, as the footsteps stopped right in front of her. She didn't dare look up. She was convinced that if she did, she'd be staring into the monstrous maw of whatever was about to devour her. But then, a hand gently rested on her shoulder. "Sanoko Machida-san." Huh? That voice. It sounded familiar. Slowly, she lifted her head, her vision clearing. Standing before her was the same young man she had met earlier that day. Rao. Seeing her dazed expression, Rao waved a hand in front of her face. "Are you hurt?" Snapping out of her daze, Sanoko quickly asked. "Rao-kun, did you see the monsters?" "You mean those two?" Rao pointed down the alley. Sanoko Machida turned her head and gasped. Not far away, two large blocks of ice stood, perfectly capturing the forms of the two monsters that had attacked her. What's going on?" The question came from Utaha, who had just arrived at the alley. Rao helped Sanoko to her feet, her face still a mask of shock and confusion. "Those were beasts," he explained calmly. "Beasts, greed wolves, level 8, ability, disguise." The two monsters, called greed wolves, were covered in black fur with sharp fangs and claws, each about 3 or 4 meters long. Most likely, they had crossed over from another dimension connected to this world. Sanoko's confusion about the men transforming into monsters stemmed from their ability to disguise themselves. "Beasts?" Sanoko, still trembling, clung to Rao for support, her mind spinning. "We can talk about that later. For now, you should rest." Rao raised his hand and clenched his fist. The frozen statues shattered into pieces, clearing the alley. He led Sanoka Machida back to Utaha, who was still stunned from what she had just witnessed. Utaha, take care of her for a moment. Oh. Oh, right. Utaha quickly studied Sanoko, even though she had a million questions racing through her mind. What are these beasts? And just who exactly is Rao? But seeing how shaken Sanoko was, Utaha knew that getting her calm was the priority. While Utaha helped Sanoko, Rao pulled out his phone and made a call. Hey, Rao, what's up? Came a voice from the other end. Raphael, I just encountered some beasts. Beasts? Send me your location, I'll be right there. Location shared, Chapter 85, Utaha and Sanoko's experience, Empire's upheaval within 3 seconds. I'm here. A sudden burst of holy light illuminated the alley. Utaha, standing outside, peeked in curiously and gasped at what she saw. An angel. The words escaped her lips before she could stop herself. Utaha felt like she was dreaming. An angel? Sanoko Machida blinked in confusion and also turned to look. The angel who had just descended, Raphael, tilted her head slightly. Who are they? She asked. Rao shrugged. Just a couple of ordinary people who got caught up in this. One of them was almost eaten by the beasts. Raphael glanced at the shattered ice remains of the monsters on the ground. Her expression grew serious. I'll handle cleaning up the scene first. It didn't take long for Raphael to record the incident and clear the remnants of the beasts. Then, they approached the tense Utaha and Sanoko Machida. I'll need to erase their memories now, Raphael said. Both women, who were still reeling from the sight of the angel, were shocked. Erase our memories? Utaha's face went pale. Do you mean everything we just saw? I promise I won't tell anyone. She desperately didn't want to lose her memory. Sanoko Machida also panicked and quickly followed suit, pledging. Me too. I swear. Raphael, however, wasn't easily swayed. I'm sorry, but those are the rules, she said firmly. But before she could proceed, Rao intervened. Raphael, is there any way to let them keep their memories? He didn't want them to lose this experience, especially since it could be a key moment to deepen his connection with them. Raphael hesitated. Under normal circumstances, she would have insisted on erasing their memories. But it was Rao asking. Someone with a particularly unique status. Besides, the power emanating from him was immense, almost on par with the legendary Seraph, Gabriel's older sister. Zell, the strongest Seraph, was said to have enough power to destroy the surface of Earth with a single strike. Zell's horn was even feared as a tool of ultimate destruction. Considering Rao's importance, Raphael decided to use an alternative method. Fine. Since you're asking, Rao, she said, summoning 2 glowing documents. These are confidentiality agreements. Unlike the non-binding ones you signed before, these have real restrictions. They'll prevent them from sharing what they've seen with ordinary people. Rao nodded in agreement and gestured to Utaha and Sanoko Machida. Sign them. Sanoko Machida, sharp as ever, quickly realized that the only reason Raphael had changed her approach was because of Rao. She nudged Utaha under the table. Sign it, Utaha, she urged. Understanding the implication, Utaha quickly followed her lead. The 2 women obediently signed and pressed their fingerprints onto the glowing papers. Raphael checked the contracts, gave a satisfied nod, and said. Good. Rao, since you know these 2, I'll leave it to you to explain the basics. But remember, don't tell them anything about matters beyond this world. Understood, Rao replied calmly. Then I'll be going. Take care. Raphael clasped her hands in a prayer-like gesture, and once again, a brilliant holy light flashed. Utaha and Sanoko instinctively shielded their eyes, and when they looked again, Raphael had vanished. Gulp. Utaha swallowed hard, her body trembling as she turned to Rao. Rao-kun. What? What on earth is going on? Rao didn't respond immediately. Instead, he looked at Sanoko Machida and said. How about we find some clean clothes for Machida-san first? Only then did Utaha remember how disheveled Sanoko looked. Let's go back to my apartment. It's close by, she suggested. Utaha's apartment was spacious, clean, and minimalist. Perfect for finding inspiration and conveniently close to her school. While the 2 women freshened up, Rao relaxed, checking the messages in his chat group. Akam had tagged him. Akam, Rao, are you there? Rao, what's up? Akam, Najanda wanted me to ask about Asdeeth. Rao, what specifically? He had a good idea of what they wanted to know. Akam, we've made contact with the Revolutionary Army. With General Do's death, they're preparing to attack the capital. Stella, are you going to take down that corrupt empire? Exciting. JPG Shizu, so, the rebellion begins? Akam, yes. Rao, well, be careful. Rao, friendly reminder, as Deeth is way stronger than Do. Oh, do you really think that highly of me? Came a voice from Asdeeth, who was apparently watching. Akam. In Akam's room, Najanda and the others exchanged bewildered glances. Leone scratched her head. I thought Rao had already subdued Asdeeth. Mine huffed, her expression frustrated. You idiot, didn't you hear? Rao isn't exactly helping us. Huh? That's what he meant? Leone asked in confusion. She'll turn to Najanda. What should we do now? Najanda remained silent for a while. She had already witnessed Asdeeth's terrifying power firsthand. Even an army of 100,000 wouldn't be enough to defeat her. Without Rao's assistance in keeping Asdeeth from supporting the Empire, any attack on the capital by the Revolutionary Army would be suicidal. Sigh. Finally, she let out a long sigh. There's nothing we can do. We don't have any formal alliance with Rao, so it's understandable if he doesn't help us. She paused before adding. But it wouldn't hurt to test his stance a bit. She looked at Akam. Akam, I'll leave this task to you. Understood. In the bathroom, an unusual quiet filled the space, with only the sound of water trickling from the shower. Both women, one in the bathtub and one under the shower head, were trying to make sense of everything that had happened. Their thoughts were still in turmoil. Monsters, angels, and Rao freezing the monsters in place. All these images replayed in their minds. The one with the most inner turmoil was undoubtedly Sanoko Machida, who was under the shower's steady stream. Her drunken stupor had long since faded, but one thought lingered, the promise she made to herself when she thought she was about to die. She had vowed to give her first time to the first man she saw after surviving. Someone she didn't dislike. That man had turned out to be Rao. There was no denying that she didn't dislike him. On the contrary, after interacting with him, she found herself feeling youthful again. That's partly why she had drunk so much at the company party, lamenting her missed opportunities. Now, she was mulling over several questions. Did that promise still hold? Would Rao even be interested in her? And how should she face Utaha? Her thoughts were all over the place. In the bathtub, Utaha sat up suddenly and asked. Machida-san, don't you think today was way too strange? Strange. Sanoko chuckled bitterly. I still feel like I'm dreaming. Monsters and angels weren't exactly easy concepts to accept. Splash. Utaha suddenly stood up, her wet body gleaming as she stretched out her arm towards Sanoko's behind. Slap. The sudden pinch on her rear made Sanoko gasp in shock. Utaha, what are you doing? Utaha just nodded, saying. Well, it hurt, so it must not be a dream? Sanoko clutched her behind, her face full of confusion. Why didn't you pinch yourself? I'm afraid of pain. Utaha giggled, breaking the tense atmosphere. As she reclined back into the tub, she gazed up at the ceiling and muttered. What exactly is Rao? Not only does he have powers, but he also knows angels. Every time she met Rao, it seemed like he revealed a new side of himself, shrouded in layers of mystery. I have no idea. But from a light novel perspective, maybe there's some kind of hidden world, and Rao might belong to some organization within that world, Sanoko speculated, her editor's imaginative mind already running wild. Her theory wasn't too far from the truth. Still, Rao seems to have quite a high status. Even that angel seemed to defer to him, Sanoko added with a sigh. Utaha nodded in agreement. Yeah, without Rao, we might have had our memories erased. Sanoko mulled it over, concluding. Rao isn't just our savior. He also made sure we retained our memories. So, I've made a decision. She suddenly turned to face Utaha. Huh? What's wrong? Utaha felt uncomfortable, especially with Sanoko's bare body facing her directly. After gathering her thoughts, Sanoko spoke. Utaha, I might have to apologize to you? Utaha was confused. What was going on now? Sanoko then confessed about the vow she had made during her near-death experience and revealed her current thoughts. As she listened, Utaha's expression grew more and more bizarre. Finally, she let out a sharp yelp. What did you say? Before she could say more, Sanoko quickly covered her mouth. SHH. Utaha nodded reluctantly, signaling that she wouldn't shout again. Once her mouth was free, she asked in disbelief. Machida-san, that's just. She wanted to protest, but found herself at a loss for words. What could she even say? That this was ridiculous? That it was. Like an older woman chasing after a younger man? But then, why did she feel so oddly uncomfortable about it? Utaha. Sanoko said earnestly. You can't imagine how hopeless I felt when I thought I was going to be eaten. That moment, my deepest desire surfaced, and this is the result. Silence fell between them once again, while in the living room, Rao glanced toward the bathroom door, his curiosity piqued. A while later, the two women finally emerged, dressed in clean sleepwear. It was clear that the sleepwear Sanoko had borrowed from Utaha was a bit tight on her. "What do you want to ask?" Rao got straight to the point. The two women exchanged glances before Utaha spoke up. "The monsters, the angels. And you. Monsters are creatures, angels are as you saw, and as for me, I'm just a human with special abilities." Rao's answer was short and to the point. Both women stared at him, utterly baffled. Was that supposed to be an explanation? Rao shrugged. "You wouldn't really understand even if I explained in detail. Just think of it this way, there are things like angels and demons in the world, and I'm special. For example, the angel you just met, Raphael, is actually a transfer student in Class 2A at your school." "Wait, what?" Utaha exclaimed in shock. Sanoko Machida also widened her eyes. "But, Utaha, aren't you in that school?" "Yeah, but..." Utaha had heard rumors about 4 beautiful transfer students in the second year, but never in a million years would she have guessed that one of them was an angel. "Wait, are all 4 of them angels?" Rao shook his head, which made Utaha sigh in relief. However, his next words left her completely dumbfounded. "No, 2 are angels, and 2 are demons." "Demons?" Sanoko gasped in horror. When most people think of demons, they picture terrifying, dangerous creatures. Utaha and Sanoko were no exception. "Relax," Rao reassured them. "They won't harm humans. And the reason they're at the school is mostly because of me. Just understand the time. Unique." He was certainly unique. Perhaps even too unique. Being able to chat casually with angels and demons was beyond anything they had ever imagined. Chapter 86, The Fallen Gabriel, Sanoko and Utaha. The situation is basically like this. As long as you follow Raphael's contract and don't talk about it, you'll be fine. Rao stood up. "I'll be taking my leave now." "Wait." Sanoko Machida suddenly called out, her voice tinged with nervousness. Under Utaha Kazamijoka's increasingly complicated gaze, Sanoko, blushing slightly, asked, "Rao-kun, could you come with me for a moment? I have something I want to talk about. In private." "Sure," Rao replied. With that, Rao and Sanoko headed to the guest bedroom in Utaha's apartment. Before closing the door, Utaha caught a glimpse of Sanoko giving her a grateful look. Utaha ran her fingers through her hair in frustration. Why had she agreed to let Sanoko use her guest bedroom? Were they really going to do that in there? She couldn't help but hope, desperately, that Rao would refuse Sanoko. But things often unfold unexpectedly. Suddenly, a voice echoed in her head, and a display appeared before her eyes. Along with this came an influx of knowledge and information. A trading chat group. She had experienced so many shocks today that she felt numb. Seeing this interface appear didn't even surprise her anymore. However, when she saw the name of the group leader, her eyes widened in disbelief. Rao? Just as she tried to examine it more closely, she heard a strange sound coming from the guest bedroom where Rao and Sanoko had gone. In an instant, Utaha realized that Rao had made the choice she most feared. For reasons she couldn't explain, it left her feeling deeply dissatisfied. A few minutes earlier, after entering the guest bedroom, Sanoko locked the door behind her. Taking a deep breath, she turned around, only to find Rao standing just inches away from her. Before she could react, Rao leaned in, his hand pressing against the door in a classic cave-down stance, trapping her against the wall. "Sanoko Machida-san, I think I need to remind you of something," Rao whispered softly in her ear, watching her nervous expression closely. "My senses are incredibly sharp." "Sharp senses?" Sanoko repeated, not fully grasping what he meant. But in the next moment, something clicked in her mind. Her eyes widened in realization. "Are you saying you heard everything earlier?" Rao smiled lightly. "Hey, I didn't expect that after knowing how special I am, you'd still talk about your plan out loud right next to me." "Ah." Sanoko's face flushed with embarrassment, tears nearly welling up in her eyes. She couldn't believe that everything she had confessed to Utaha, the plotting, the apology, the request, had all been overheard. What a disaster. "Honestly, I didn't expect you to make such a bold decision, Sanoko-san. Going for the older woman, younger man dynamic, huh? Ugh." Sanoko hung her head in shame. I'm sorry." Now that her thoughts had been exposed, she felt utterly ashamed of herself. "Sorry? Why are you apologizing?" Rao chuckled, clearly amused. His right hand then lifted one of her legs. "Sanoko-san, just like you, I don't mind trying something daring myself. In fact, I got my license for driving big trucks in another world, you know." "Eh?" Sanoko was confused by his words for a split second. But in the next moment, MMPH. She quickly realized that Rao's license for driving big trucks was very, very real. Whoosh! Gabriel yawned as she pushed open the bathroom door and stepped out. But she couldn't sleep just yet. There was a group raid in her game today. Just then, the room filled with a holy light. Raphael had just returned. Rafi? Gabriel rubbed her eyes. When did you go out? Raphael retracted her halo and wings before replying. About 10 minutes ago. Why did you go out so late? Raphael looked at the messy-haired Gabriel with a meaningful expression. Gabriel, have you forgotten our responsibilities in the human world? Gabriel mumbled, realizing she had indeed forgotten, caught up in gaming as she was. But then she straightened up and recited with conviction. First, deal with the issues arising from the otherworldly connections. Second, observe Rao. Third, learn human knowledge. Good. Raphael's eyes glinted as she nodded. I went out earlier because Rao notified me of the appearance of a magical beast. Oh. Gabriel responded indifferently because if Rao was involved, it wasn't an issue. If something was too much for him to handle, then there was no point in them trying. Remembering her group raid, Gabriel hurriedly said. Since it's already been handled, I'm going to sleep. She dashed back to her room in a flash. In the darkness, Raphael's lips curled into a pleased smile. Oh my, Gabriel has truly fallen. What should we do? As for fallen Sanoko Machida, she chose to completely surrender. It wasn't that she didn't want to move, it was that her entire body felt like jelly, unable to muster any strength. Sigh. Breathing out softly, a lingering warmth in her breath, she gazed contentedly at the ceiling. Sanoko Machida realized she had been completely wrong. Rao wasn't some naive young boy. He was a real man. At least this time, she was thoroughly dominated. Finally, she understood why her friends and colleagues preferred to be in relationships. Men really were amazing. No, not just men. Rao was different from the rest. Feeling thirsty, she asked. Water? Rao walked over with a glass of water, unbuttered, and helped her sit up, gently feeding her the drink. Sanoko Machida stared straight into his eyes. Being cared for like this by a man felt incredible. She wanted to hide her emotions, but Rao saw through it all. He pulled her into his arms. So, do you like me now? A little, Sanoko admitted freely. She had never felt this way toward a man before and naturally leaned into his shoulder. Just a little? Rao teased, pressing her gently. Ugh. Sanoko's body shuddered. How could she not like him? Liking you won't change anything, though. Sadly, you don't belong to me, Sanoko murmured, her fingers tightening slightly as a wave of melancholy washed over her. Rao was a man she would never forget, someone she doubted any other man could compare to after experiencing the happiness he gave her. Would she stay single forever? Sigh. Sanoko sighed deeply, preparing to take advantage of this last opportunity to be with him. Just as she was about to make her move, Rao suddenly said. What if you belong to me instead? Huh? Sanoko froze. Are you saying? As friends with benefits? That was the first thought that came to her mind. I'd be willing. As long as you don't tire of me, you can call me anytime. She was overjoyed at the thought. Even being friends with benefits was fine. At least she'd get to enjoy herself for a few more years. Why do you sound so insecure? Rao's expression grew amused. It's because I want it, Sanoko answered without hesitation. Even I can't control this desire. She had to admit, she had grown addicted to this feeling. Rao chuckled. You're at that age where the saying like a wolf and a tiger fits perfectly. But no, I didn't mean being friends with benefits. Ah. Sanoko's heart sank. But Rao's next words made her feel like she was floating on air. What I meant was, if you become a woman who belongs to me for life, I can give you everything you want. You mean? A wife? Sanoko gulped. Rao grinned. A wife, huh? You've got guts. Though, maybe one day you could become one of my wives. One of your wives? Was that even possible? Take a look at this. Rao showed her the chat group system. Sanoko stood frozen in place, trying to process it. While she was still absorbing the information, Rao made his move. After a moment, her eyes regained focus, but her emotions were conflicted. I didn't expect you to have such a background. She noticed something was off. Wait, when did I end up like this? Turning to look at Rao's smiling face, she finally understood his playful approach. He was always one step ahead. You saw the others. Sako, and Mai. Belong to me. Would you like to join them? Sanoko had seen the chat group logs. Raw, unfiltered transaction records. She couldn't help but feel envious. She wished she had entered the chat group earlier, where she could have made transactions every day. Just like now. Her eyes filled with mist, and in a soft voice, she said. Rao-kun, Do I even need to answer that? I've already given you my answer. Let me belong to you forever. Hearing this, Rael smiled in satisfaction. He appreciated honest people like her. Though the less direct ones, like Mai and Sui, were just as charming. I'll give you my blessing. You will belong to me, and Rael finally gave her the support she craved. Happiness. Pure, overwhelming happiness flooded through her. Was there anything more joyful than knowing she could enjoy this feeling for the rest of her life? For Sanoko, the answer was clear. Nothing could be better. The first rays of sunlight peeked through the window, lighting up the bedroom. The sunlight hit Yutaha Kazumidjoka's face, making her frown slightly. She turned over, facing away from the light. After a while, she fluttered her lashes and opened her sleepy eyes, just as usual. She glanced at the time and got out of bed, heading to the bathroom to freshen up. But as she stepped out of her room, she noticed the door to the guest bedroom was open. Inside, she saw Sanoko Machida, already dressed. A chill ran down her spine as yesterday's memories rushed back. She remembered spending the whole night tossing and turning, trying to ignore the muffled sounds she had heard. Now, it was finally over? You're up, Yutaha. I was just about to see if I should wake you, Sanoko said as she turned toward her. Yutaha stared at her, noticing that Sanoko's skin seemed especially radiant today. Thinking back to everything that happened last night, she couldn't help but ask with a bitter smile. Rao-kun. Oh, he laughed, Sanoko replied nonchalantly. And don't worry, I'll buy you a new set of sheets, she added. Ah. Yutaha froze, her eyes landing on the bed in the guest room. Especially on the large stains that looked like someone had dumped a bucket of water onto the sheets. Recalling the loud noises from Sanoko's room the night before, she could only imagine what had gone on. Her brain was reeling. Yutaha Kazumidjoka regretted ever agreeing to let Sanoko use her guest bedroom. TCH. Sanoko also felt embarrassed, being so openly scrutinized. She quickly ushered Yutaha into the living room, closing the door behind them. Oh, Yutaha, let me show you something cool. Yutaha was already emotionally drained. What could possibly be cooler than this? But when Sanoko raised her hand toward a nearby cushion, a sudden gust of wind lifted it into the air. At first, Yutaha thought it was just a random breeze. But when she looked at the windows, she realized they were completely closed. Where had that wind come from? And even more bizarre, the cushion was floating, as if dancing in the air. Chapter 87, Sable Incident, Baking Cookies. Yutaha stared at the floating cushion and finally realized something was off. Shocked, she looked at Sanoko Machida. What is this? Sanoko smiled mysteriously. In the next moment, her short black hair grew into long, blue locks. Her black eyes turned the same shade of blue, and her ears, under a flickering light, morphed into long, pointed ones. Yutaha Kazumidjoka was completely stunned. Excited, Sanoko said. This is the power I got from Rael's blessing. I can now transform into a wind elf. Wind elf. Yutaha's mouth hung open, speechless. Her editor had just turned into a fantasy creature. On impulse, she reached out and touched the long, pointed ears. They didn't seem fake. After a long pause, Yutaha asked, her voice serious. Machida-san, can you give me a hug? Why would I hug you? Because I feel like I'm dreaming, but I'm scared of pain. Sanoko was speechless, recalling how Yutaha had pinched her bottom in the bath the previous day. She quickly moved further away. What are you thinking? You're not dreaming. Of course Yutaha knew she wasn't dreaming, but she really wished she were. Sigh. Unfortunately, reality was staring her in the face, so she had no choice but to pour herself a glass of water to calm down. Accepting the truth, she asked. Why would Rael make you a wind elf? She was confused. Was it because of a one-night stand? Yutaha felt that term best described their relationship. Sanoko reverted to her normal form and sat back down on the sofa, sighing with emotion. Well, it's because I'm now part of Rael's harem. PFFT. Yutaha spat out her drink in shock. Cough, cough. She quickly cleared her throat, not even bothering to clean up the mess, and stared at Sanoko in disbelief. What did you just say? Harem. Sanoko handed her some tissues and nodded with a smile. That's right, harem. I believe Rael gave you access to the chat system too, right? You should have seen the messages and transaction records by now. Yeah. Then it makes sense. Sakobujujima, my Sakurajima. They're all his girlfriends. Yutaha was stunned. She had initially thought it was just a case of forced physical transactions. But now it turned out these women were actually his girlfriends. And there were several of them. No wonder Sanoko used the word harem. So you too. That's right. Yutaha was confused. But why? She couldn't understand how someone as educated and modern as Sanoko could accept this. Doesn't she understand that love can't be shared? Why, huh? Sanoko thought for a moment, then patted Utaha's shoulder with a heavy hand. You just don't understand the struggles of an older, career-driven woman like me. Sigh. It was hard to explain, but it came with a lot of tears. And most importantly, Rei-ao is special. Special. Okay, Utaha could admit that Rei-ao was unique. But she was about to say more when Sanoko placed a finger on her lips, shaking her head. I understand what you're trying to say, Utaha, but I've already made my decision to step into a new world. Of course, I won't neglect my work, but I'll take things a bit easier. After all, Rei-ao had given her a substantial amount of money. And you don't understand, Utaha. What don't I understand? Utaha frowned. Sanoko's gaze turned reflective, and she clicked her tongue in appreciation. I didn't truly understand the joy of being a woman until last night. You wouldn't get it, Utaha. Rei-ao. He's a man who can handle 6 women all by himself. What? Utaha's brain crashed on the spot. The one responsible for all the numbness and shock experienced by Utaha was none other than Rei-ao himself. At that moment, he was casually walking home, completely content with how he was balancing his time between different women while enjoying life. Unfortunately, he hadn't yet managed to conquer Utaha Kazumijouka's black-stockinged legs, or else he'd definitely try mixing up some interesting combinations with both Utaha and Sanoko Machida, the 2 black-stocking queens. Sable. Suddenly, he heard a girl's panicked voice. Uegahama? Rei-ao instantly recognized the voice. With one glance, he understood what had happened. Freeze. In that moment, time stopped. Rei-ao looked at the familiar scene with amusement, thinking. What an interesting sight. A speeding black car. A small dog in the middle of the road. A panicked girl. And a boy rushing to save the dog. It was the perfect classic scene. Too bad, the one who'll get you his gratitude will be me. Rei-ao moved swiftly, picking up the little dog named Sable. With a flick of his finger, he subtly redirected the boy. The flow of time resumed. The car screeched to a halt. Huh? The dead-eyed boy was sure he had just rushed out to save the dog from being hit by the car. But now he found himself still on the sidewalk, never having stepped into the road. Ah, Sable, thank goodness you're okay. The pink-haired girl, Yue, was hugging her dog, visibly relieved. Seems like everything's fine. The boy mumbled to himself and, with his hands in his pockets and shoulders slumped, walked away. Rei-ao-kun. Thank you for saving Sable. Seeing that the dog was unharmed, Yue quickly ran over to Rei-ao to express her gratitude. It was nothing. Rei-ao replied casually. Rei-ao? Rei-ao-kun? 2 voices called his name from the black car that had just stopped. Yuki-chan. Yue exclaimed in surprise, noticing Yukino Shida and a girl who looked very similar to her, Haruno Yukino Shida. Oh, looks like we all know each other. Haruno, with her sparkling eyes and playful smile, introduced herself. Hello there. I'm Yukino's sister, Haruno Yukino Shida. I'm Uegahama, Yuki-chan's classmate. Yukino pressed her lips together, feeling uncomfortable with Yue calling her Yuki-chan in front of her sister. Uegahama-san, I'm truly sorry. Our car almost hit your dog, Haruno said formally, offering her apology. Yukino also apologized. I'm sorry. No, it's okay. Sable is fine, and I should have been holding onto the leash better, Yue replied, feeling embarrassed. Haha, it's all thanks to Rei-ao-kun. Haruno was genuinely curious. She hadn't even noticed when Rei-ao had picked up the dog. Rei-ao said calmly. It was just a quick move. Since nothing happened, let's leave it at that. Oh, I don't think so. Just when Rei-ao thought the situation was settled, Haruno suddenly smiled and took out her phone. Can I get your contact info, both of you? Yukino frowned. Sister, what are you planning? Of course, I need to offer a proper apology. I have things to take care of today, but when I have time, let's all have dinner together. Yukino was puzzled. She had never heard of apologies requiring dinner invitations. Seeing Haruno's persistent smile, Yue felt it was hard to refuse and gave her contact details. Rei-ao didn't mind either and did the same. After recording the contact info, Haruno got back in the car, still smiling as she waved goodbye. See you both next time. As the car drove off, only Rei-ao and Yue remained. Noticing his gaze, Yue suddenly felt self-conscious. Rei-ao-kun, why are you staring at me? I was just thinking that your skirt looks really nice. Ugh. Thank you. Yue's face flushed, and she looked down, too embarrassed to say more. To ease the awkwardness, Rei-ao asked. Uegahama-san, what were you planning to do? Oh, right. Yue remembered her original plan. I was going to walk Sable and then buy some dog food. Also. Yue sneaked a glance at Rao and mumbled shyly. I wanted to keep practicing baking cookies. You don't have to go that far just for me. For him, the gesture of gratitude was more than enough. Hee hee. Yue giggled playfully. It's not just to thank you. I want Rao-kun to really like my cookies. That day, when you said they were bad, it really hurt me. She raised her fists in a playful show of determination. Rao chuckled. Well, you didn't seem that upset, but you were still cute. Eh? Caught off guard by the compliment, Yue's face turned even redder, and she was left fumbling for words. Sensing the moment, Rao made his move. Yue, may I call you that? Huh? Being called by her first name made Yue feel a sense of closeness, and her heart raced with joy, though her face was still flushed. Okay, sure. Yue agreed. Rao's lips curled into a smile. Yue, since you're learning to bake cookies for me, how about I join you and help? Huh? Yue looked up, surprised. Rao-kun, are you interested in baking? Of course not. No, I'm more interested in seeing you seriously focus on something, especially since you're learning it for me. Yue's heart raced. Was this a confession? But just as she started to get lost in her thoughts, Rao shifted the conversation. By the way, your Sable seems to be getting restless. Yue looked down in a panic. Ah. Sable, you can't pee here. In the car with Yukino and Haruno. Yukino, what are you thinking about? Haruno suddenly asked. Even though she had focused on Yue and Rao earlier, she hadn't missed the changes in Yukino's expression and body language. Yukino's eyes had been fixed on Yue and Rao the entire time, her brows furrowed. Haruno asked teasingly. Are you and Rao-kun a couple? They look like a cute pair. Yukino slowly turned to look at her sister. Sister, you know Rao is pursuing Hiratsuka-sensei, right? And you've met him before. Instead of answering Haruno's question, she responded with one of her own. Haruno's eyes flashed with surprise. Her expression shifted into a knowing smile. Oh, I must have been so shocked earlier that I forgot about that. A lie. Yukino could instantly tell her sister was lying. Annoyed, she frowned and turned to gaze out the window. Rao. He's a player. That much she was sure of. Honestly, she was worried that the recent events would make Yue develop even stronger feelings for Rao. If things continued like this, it could only end in disaster. Yue would end up getting hurt. But Yukino was just an outsider. What right did she have to interfere? If she were truly a friend. Were they really friends? The way things unfold can be surprising. For instance, at that moment, Rao and Yue were in a baking class, standing side by side as they learned. With Rao so close, Yue couldn't help but sneak glances at him. Finally, as the instructor finished explaining the process and the students started working, Rao caught her peeking. Am I dirty, or are you just admiring me? Ugh. Yue flinched, like a startled little mouse. But, blushing, she shyly muttered. Rao-kun's face isn't dirty. It's really handsome. I'm glad to hear that from you. Rao smiled. But now it's baking time. If you keep looking at me, you won't be able to focus. He gently reminded her. We should get started. Oh. Right. Sorry. Finally, Yue managed to focus on making the cookies. But some of her movements were clearly clumsy. Especially when it came to mixing the dough, which looked adorably awkward. Chapter 88, New Members. What's going on? The instructor nearby could hardly watch Yue's clumsy movements any longer. Just as he was about to say something, Rao stepped in. Yue. Yes. Yue looked up, and Rao's hand was already on her cheek. He touched her. Her heart skipped a beat as he brushed something off her cheek. He showed her the flour mix on his finger, saying, Your mixing technique is off. After wiping the flour off his finger with a tissue, he asked, Want me to teach you hands-on? His gentle voice left Yue staring, dumbfounded, as she nodded. Soon, Rao's large hand wrapped around hers. Relax. Follow my movements. Yue could hardly relax. Feeling his hand against hers made her heart race. And they were so close. The instructor, observing the scene, suddenly realized. Ah, so they're a couple, he thought, moving on to help other students. Amid the flustered, heart-racing atmosphere, Yue finally finished making her cookies. Determined to taste one before giving them to Rao, she nervously picked one up. Rao laughed at her hesitation. It can't be that bad, especially since I guided you. Yue's face reddened further, remembering the hands-on instruction. With a determined look, she took a small bite. The moment she tasted it, her eyes widened in surprise. Good? Rao asked. Yue seemed lost in thought, so Rao leaned down and took the cookie right out of her hand. Not bad. If her first batch had been practically inedible and the second batch barely passable, then this one was actually quite good. Congratulations, Yue. This is really tasty. You've improved a lot. But Yue barely heard his compliment, staring at her hand and then at Rao's mouth, where he had just bitten the same cookie she had. Indirectly, they had kissed, hadn't they? Before she could process this, Rao gently wiped a crumb from her lip and said, "It looks like you made a lot. Let's split them." "Oh, okay," Yue replied, her cheeks flushed red as she quietly divided the cookies. Her face was burning as she left the class. See you tomorrow. I have to go now," she called out, nearly running away. She was worried her heart might burst if she stayed with Rao any longer. Watching Yue's retreating figure, Rao smiled. A heart rate of 125 beats per minute? He spoke as if to her, though she couldn't hear. That quick, drum-like beat was crystal clear to him. Far from normal heartbeats, these weren't the beats of illness. They were something else entirely. He wondered just how fast her heart could race. Back at home, Rao was already putting his theory to the test as he listened to another heartbeat. "Why did you grab me like this the second you got home?" Mai asked, blushing as she sat on Rao's lap. "Just wanted to feel the rhythm of your heart." Mai wanted to tease him back, but his timing was too perfect, making her feel both vulnerable and close to him. Just as she was about to respond, Rao said suddenly, "I added another woman to the mix today." Mai froze. "Yukino? Utaha? Yumiko?" She quickly listed a few names that came to mind, knowing how close some of them were to Rao. He shook his head. None of them. Without hiding anything, he explained the events of the previous night and told her about Sanoko Machida's decision. Mai was silent for a moment before finally asking, "Rao, do you have a thing for older women? What makes you think that?" Rao chuckled. "Have you forgotten how much I enjoy spoiling you? Well." She glanced at him, embarrassed but also a little satisfied with the attention. "Then why the older ones?" she mumbled, blushing. "Maybe I just appreciate beautiful women," he said, smiling mischievously. "By the way, do you have any pictures of your mom?" Mai stared at him in shock. What do you mean?" He laughed. "Oh, relax. I just meant that if I don't know what she looks like, it could be awkward if we run into each other." Yet, somehow, Mai wasn't entirely convinced. If it were anyone else, she might have let it go, but with Rao, he wasn't just anyone. Just then, a notification appeared in the group chat. Ding. Taru has joined the chat group, ding. Yukino Shita has joined the chat group, Yukino? Rao and Mai exchanged a glance. This was unexpected. Sure enough, not long after. Ding dong. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. Rao didn't need to guess, it was Yukino. "I'll get it," he said, standing up to answer the door. Yukino hesitated, looking up at him. She seemed like she wanted to say something but, noticing Mai looking over with curiosity, she took a breath and said, "Rao, could you come with me for a moment? There's something I'd like to discuss." "Of course." He gave Mai a quick look before following Yukino out, heading to her place. After finishing her work, Haruno stretched with a relaxed sigh. Dealing with the Yukino Shita family affairs was dull and tedious, leaving her without any free time over the weekend. Sigh, "I wish I could have the freedom Yukino has," she murmured with a hint of envy. Curious, she remotely checked Yukino's apartment's thermal imaging camera. She could only see the heat signatures, but it was enough to confirm someone was there. Likely her sister. For a while, Yukino didn't move. But after a bit, she appeared to head toward the entryway. Busy even on the weekend? Haruno thought, a little surprised, assuming Yukino would be resting. She was about to turn it off when she noticed a second figure's heat signature entering the apartment. Her gaze sharpened. Who was that? It was Rao. After stepping into Yukino's apartment, his eyes immediately landed on a large panda plush sitting on the couch. A surveillance camera? He noted, raising an eyebrow. He had spotted the camera embedded in the panda's eye. "Have a seat, Rao," Yukino said, placing a cup of tea on the table. "Thanks." He sat down, glancing casually at the panda plush. "Nice plush you have here, Yukino Shita. Did you buy it yourself?" Yukino, who had been trying to gather her thoughts on the unexpected group chat in her mind, felt a momentary pause at his question. "It was a gift from my sister," she replied. "Ah. Figures." Rao nodded, amused. It seemed that Haruno's sisterly instincts were intense. Since it was an internal family matter, he decided to leave it alone. "What's wrong?" Yukino asked, uncertain of his intentions. "Nothing," he replied, smiling. "I just thought it was a cute panda. I'd consider getting one myself." "Cute," Yukino murmured, instinctively tugging at the panda's ear. Anyone who thought Mr. Panda was cute couldn't be all bad. Even if Rao was a bit of a flirt. Turning her attention back to Rao, she grew serious. Rao, can you explain what this trade chat group is? Rao took a sip of tea. This is good tea, did you make it yourself? Her brows furrowed. You. But Rao interrupted gently. No need to rush. The chat group isn't going anywhere. Besides, everything you need to know about it is already in your mind. You're just hoping I'll confirm it for you. Now that we're talking, you already have your answer, don't you? Yukino fell silent, realizing he was right. His existence was indeed tied to this mysterious chat group. But the strange realities surrounding it felt worlds beyond her understanding, leaving her feeling overwhelmed. Sensing her hesitation, Rao suggested. Maybe you should introduce yourself to the group. In the chat group Sikobujujima, new members already. Ayami Magawa, welcome to both of you. Shizu Aizawa, welcome. Rao, Taru and classmate Yukino Shida, any questions? Taru, questions? Not now. Busy fighting. Frieren, doesn't seem like the new one likes interruptions. Frieren, but the other one. Did Rao just call her a classmate? Megumi Kato, Yukino Shida. I think I've heard that name somewhere. Megumi Kato, Yukino Shida, aren't you the ice-cold princess from Class 1? Yukino felt a flush of embarrassment spread through her. Being called that by strangers from various worlds was incredibly awkward, like a personal detail leaking across dimensions. She noticed Rao's amused expression, and he couldn't resist asking. Would you introduce yourself as I'm very cute? The phrase struck her, bringing up distant memories. Wait. Her eyes widened. How? How did you know about that? But Rao simply shrugged. Know about what? Watching him feign innocence, Yukino decided to let it go. She turned back to the group chat. Yukino Shida, I am not Yukino Shida. Megumi Kato, it really is you. My Sakurajima, I just saw her. She was the one who called Rao out. Suai, your neighbors? My Sakurajima, she lives next door. Akam, you sound bothered. Frieren, like you're a bit annoyed. Stella, annoyed? Well, her boyfriend is at another girl's place. My, sounds like you're a little jealous. Stella, instead of being jealous, though, maybe you should warn Yukino Shita to be careful around him. You know, so she doesn't end up in a compromising position. My Sakurajima. Ayami Magawa, come on, I doubt Rao-sama would go that far. Frieren, exactly, Rao already has plenty of girlfriends. No need for him to rush. The comments in the chat only heightened Yukino's wariness, especially after seeing the trade logs, which were full of shockingly personal details. She cast Rao a cautious glance. Rao. You wouldn't get too impulsive, would you? Rao gave her a measured look. I'm not some beast ruled by desire, Yukino Shida. I simply appreciate beauty. But if a beautiful girl like you offered a trade, I wouldn't say no. There was a dangerous glint in his gaze, making Yukino feel as though she'd suddenly become one of his targets. But I'm sorry, but I have no intention of making such inappropriate trades, she stated firmly. What others did in the chat group was their choice, but she wouldn't participate in anything improper. She stood, her posture formal and collected. Now that I understand the situation, you may leave. Rao shrugged and made his way to the door, pausing as he exited to add. Oh, one more thing. You might want to go through the previous chat logs. There have been sightings of man-eating monsters in this area, so maybe avoid going out alone at night. And with that, he left, closing the door behind him. She let out a small sigh. Since she had been the one to dismiss him, calling him back would be out of the question. Instead, she decided to heed his advice and carefully go over the chat logs. Chapter 89, Different Clashes, A Demon Doing Too Many Good Deeds? Just as Rao returned home, my Sakurajima jumped into his arms and kissed him fervently. They held each other at the entrance for quite a while before Mai finally pulled away, leaving Rao with a satisfied grin, wiping his mouth as he looked at her with amusement. What's this? He asked. Checking if I brought back anyone else's scent. Mai's body stiffened, clearly caught off guard, but she quickly replied, unfazed. Humphrey. Even if there was another scent, I'd make sure to cover it with mine right away. Her serious expression showed that even if she couldn't make Rao belong only to her, she'd ensure that he was fully present when he was with her. It was a unique mix of possessiveness and acceptance. Oh? Rao raised an eyebrow at her statement, then placed his hands gently on her shoulders, signaling her to kneel down. What is it? Mai followed his guidance, her gaze questioning him. But before she could process what he intended, her view was suddenly obscured, and she felt his touch on her face as he leaned in with a playful tone. Since you insist, why don't you double-check? Without giving Mai any chance to respond, he went ahead. Meanwhile, in another vast world, an entirely different scene unfolded. An all-out war among humans, dragons, and divine beings. Roar. The thunderous roar of a green dragon echoed across the battlefield. With a mouthful of flame spewing from a conjured magic circle, the dragon set ablaze a group of armored figures soaring through the sky. The battleground was pure chaos, filled with dragons, humans, and divinely armored warriors fighting for supremacy. The green dragon, Taru, momentarily distracted, barely avoided a fatal strike from a divine warrior's blade. She snarled in frustration, her voice seething with anger. A chat group? What on earth is this? Don't interrupt my battle. This was a war for survival among species. Victory meant life, defeat, death. Annoyed, Taru ignored the mysterious messages popping into her mind, focusing intently on her enemies. Damn gods! Die! She roared, plunging back into the thick of battle. On both sides of the battlefield, intense clashes raged on. One side saw Rao locked in a fierce battle with Mai, while Taru clashed with the divine beings. Meanwhile, far away, Haruno Yukinoshita fought a different struggle. One against herself. She sat, biting her right thumbnail as she stared at the thermal imaging screen.